Megan Fox.
And Megan Fox has the story.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox writes at PJ Media.
Eat shit, Tucker.
And that was your last. God damn it, man. I cried for 2 days.
Megan, thank you very much for that.
So, I can explain the bed thing. A nest in one of my penthouses, and I had to pry a steak.
It's like Jesus going to the temple. He's like, I got a whip. Get out! Get out!
I would have thrown them all off the balcony.
Megan Fox.
She's the devil. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
There's something about the way that you say my name. Make me forget everything when you call
Megan.
me.
Megan Fox. Megan Fox.
I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
You've never met a bitch like me. You want to tangle? You want to go? Holy shit. Holy shit.
Too much cussing on this. I guess we didn't bleep it, so we got to turn it off. But
You pissed off the wrong woman.
oh my God, I have been assaulted. What are you going to do when Megan Fox runs wild on you, brother?
She's the devil.
Not for publication.
Megan Fox.
And Megan Fox has the story.
I'm Megan.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
Thank
you. Cheers.
Well, look, bitch, you're not serious either. You didn't even do the paperwork in time.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Megan Fox. I got to get this out of here. How do I get this out of here? Welcome to the show. I'm Megan Fox. I write with pjmedia.com. And today is so special. It's True Crime Tuesday. When politics is more horrific than serial murder, you know you have a problem. Coming to the show now is Diego Knows, my good friend and fellow YouTuber. We met back in the And Just Like That Sex in the City days, didn't we? Which, you know, bro, I'm surprised that you and I never met in Chicago at Excalibur. Frankly.
I used to work there.
I know. And I used to go there with my fake ID. You know, maybe you took it. Somebody at Excalibur.
I busted a lot of fake IDers at the front door. Yeah, definitely.
That's where I lost my fake ID, Excalibur. Yeah. I will never forget that.
We were told to confiscate them, you know, if we got them. So.
Mm-hmm. You know where we used to get them? You know where they came from?
No, where?
The flea market in Indiana.
Probably, yeah.
So good.
Yeah. You might have seen me actually at the Hang Up too. I worked there for a long time. I managed that club for a long time. The Hang Up. You remember that on Elm Street?
I don't think I ever went there. I used to hang out at the Drink a lot. The Drink was my place. I loved the Drink. I knew the guys who owned the place, and I was there a lot, especially because the kitchen was open till like 2 a.m. And I'm all about the food. But Chicago's a good place. And you and I are both from there. Were you born in Chicago?
Yes. I was born at Rush St. Luke's Hospital, right there over by UIC, where I went to school. I went to school at UIC.
And I was born at LaGrange Hospital out in the western suburbs. But you and I, it's funny, I was listening to so I found your channel during the And Just Like That crisis that we had in this country. It was a very dark time when they brought back Sex in the City for
that wasn't Sex in the City, but yeah. That wasn't.
No, I don't. I was just telling you, it's fitting for True Crime Tuesday, because watching And Just Like That was kind of like watching a murder happen, where they took our favorite characters and they butchered them in front of us, and then like put other people in those roles and said they were the same people, and they were gaslighting us to believe it, but it's not true.
Yes, absolutely. It wasn't a show about relationships anymore. It was a show about the message, about LGBTQ rights, about about transgenderism,
right.
about gay pride. That's what the show was about.
That's what it became
grooming,
about. Yeah.
Grooming. Okay, this is what it was about. It had nothing to do with relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was.
Oh, you know what else? You know what else it reminded me of? It's almost like it was Michael Patrick King's way of trying to apologize for being so politically incorrect back in the 90s, because that show really was politically incorrect. I mean, sure, it was more to the left, and it was definitely very I know it's been described sometimes as a show written by gay men about women living the lives of single gay men, which is probably true. I didn't know many women who had that many partners. Even in the city of Chicago, I didn't know a Samantha Jones. There was nobody I knew like that, who was, dropping trout for every guy that walked by. So perhaps it was. But it was a fantasy show, and it was not supposed to be realistic. It was supposed to be outrageous. Sam Jones in particular was one of my favorite characters ever, probably because she never had a filter, and whatever she was thinking came right out of her mouth, and she never apologized for it. She's like, so what? So what? I said it. So what?
Yeah.
And today that would never go. It would just never.
Oh yeah,
you just couldn't put that on television. So I liked that about the show, and I felt like he was apologizing for that the entire time.
Yeah. Well, Anthony was like that too, and Anthony had no filter either. He was actually worse, I think, in a lot of ways.
Anthony actually is the only character that survived the hack job. I think Anthony was the only character that I continued to enjoy during the reboot. And I felt like it's at times they didn't even let him go hard enough, though. Like, he could have gone. The way he went off on Rose was terrific. Like, stop being a little brat. Like, stop it.
Yeah. No, I did do theater. I did do musical theater and stuff, and I did do Guys and Dolls. Okay, before. Okay, I did stand in for that.
I didn't know you did musical theater. Yeah. So did I.
Yeah, and that whole thing about what was it? Summer stock was just a big mass of homophobia. That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Totally.
It's heterophobia. Okay?
Right. It's mostly gay guys.
Right?
Yeah. I was in theater too. It's mostly gay guys, and
mostly gay guys.
And lesbians who do the stage work. We had a lot of lesbians who did, building sets and stuff. It was a great.
The electricians were all lesbians. Yeah.
The theater was a terrific environment for LGBT. I mean, it was majority LGBT. All of our directors were gay. All of our musicians were gay. So yeah, that was a weird joke to throw in there. Like, no.
It wasn't. I liked the joke, but it wasn't accurate. It wasn't accurate.
But I didn't know you did musical theater. So
yes, I did.
Tell me a little.
Well, not professional. I mean, the goal was to do it professionally. That never happened. Life gets in the way. You know how it is when you're young.
That's what I did. I went to Arizona State for theater. I could have gone to Roosevelt. I got a full scholarship there, but my dad didn't want me to go to fruit school. That's what he said. He said, "You're not going to fruit school." And I was like, "But Dad, I'm a fruit." And he didn't buy it. And he was like, "No, you're going to ASU." And then I went there and studied theater anyway, and then partied too hard and dropped out. But the theater crew is one of the hardest partying crowds in college. But I was going to do
We're
it.
extroverts, we want to. Like in my personal life, I tend to be more reserved, more shy. I don't really. I'm not usually the one that starts the conversation, that kind of thing. But you put me on stage, and I just go crazy. I can't help it. I know for some reason I'm just not inhibited by performing in front of a bunch of people. You put me on stage, I can do Michael Jackson. I'll do whatever. I don't care. But put me into a party with a bunch of people I don't know. I ain't gonna talk. Weird like that.
That is odd.
But once someone turns the karaoke machine on, boom! I'm doing New Kids on the Block. You know? So
So you were born in Chicago, raised in Chicago, went to school right in Chicago. You stayed in college in Chicago too?
yeah, I went to the Marines. I went to North Carolina for a while. You know, for a longer than I thought. I went in the Marines to do 4 years of active duty, and then September 11th happened, so I ended up staying. You know, so I ended up doing like 8 years in the Marines. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
So did you I'm looking at the Rumble chat right now. Somebody upon the horizon said, to be young and gay and in the theater. Right. It was the place to be if you were gay
Yeah.
in theater for sure. Because
Yeah.
you
Oh yeah.
meet all
Yeah.
kinds of people there.
Yeah.
We've got, and don't forget, you guys, in the Rumble chat, make sure you hit that plus button. You know, smash the plussy for me and share the stream. And if you're on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe and check out Diego Knows because he's on YouTube. Now, I want to show you a little bit of Diego on YouTube that got me hooked in because
Okay.
you make me laugh. And look at this screenshot I got. This is so funny. This freeze frame. But this was one of his reviews of And Just Like That. And it's just, he's so funny. Let's play this. Oh, wait. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Okay. I got this hilarious. I had this hilarious screenshot of you.
You had a heart attack. How'd your wife die? Oh, she had cancer. Oh, okay. Want to get some drinks? Yeah, let's get some drinks. And then next thing you know, oh my God, can you believe that? They're all drunk and stumbling out of the bar. And then the best thing happens, which I was waiting for. I was waiting for this part. You know, they're both drunk, laughing their asses off, stumbling, and then they decide to throw up on each other. Isn't that awesome? They threw up on each other. Romantic, huh? Nothing says hitting it off like throwing up on each other. Yeah, they get it on their shoes, on their clothes. And then Carrie's like, oh my God. Isn't it awesome? I know I wanted to see it. Okay, now we fast forward to the auction.
You kill me.
That's how it went down. I mean, I'm not making that up.
It's true. So when I found your channel, my laundry had broken. My laundry machine had broken. So I was spending, and because everything was on a long boat to China at the time, and still is, like you can't get parts. I'm waiting on these machine parts to come. And I think I was waiting for 3 or 4 months for this. So I'm taking every week, sometimes twice a week, taking all my laundry for 5 people to the laundromat. And I got Diego in my ears the whole time listening to because after he started doing And Just Like That reviews, he went back and did all of Sex and the City from season 1 all the way through season 6, every single episode. And I listened to almost every one. I didn't get through. My washing machine got fixed before I finished. So I don't have as much time anymore to like just listen to YouTube because that's all I did at the laundromat was listen to YouTube. But I had such a hilarious time with you going back through and remembering those episodes. So if you're doing laundry and you're stuck in the laundromat or wherever, Diego is hilarious to listen to. So check out I'm going to drop his YouTube page in the chat for you guys right now. Oh, thank you, Shawnette. I see that Shawnette, the mods are taking care of it. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. But so now I feel like I understand you a little bit better. I feel like you and I are so similar. It's so weird. Both from Chicago, both have theater backgrounds. So tell me about how you started your YouTube channel. How did that get going?
Well, basically, I got bored. Whenever I talk to my friends, like family members or stuff, they always know that I'm the movie critic of the family. Okay, I will point out who the director was, what they did, what else the actors have been in, wrote this story, that kind of thing. And I will have these opinions, okay? And a lot of people, they don't think about movies and TV shows that deeply. They'll tell you if they liked it or not. That's it. Oh yeah, it was okay. But I can't do that. If I really like something, I need you to know why I liked it. What was so special? But this is what was special about it. This is how it worked. Okay, but if I see something I don't like, I can't just say I didn't like it. It was terrible. I got to tell you why I didn't like it. What was wrong with it?
I'm like you. I like to
know?
complain out loud.
I'm looking for the man behind the curtain. I got to see the strings. I got to see what it was. I can't just like something and not understand why I liked it. You got to find out why it is. And I did notice that a lot of stuff, Sex and the City, the things that I was talking about, this is the stuff I was talking about 20 years ago. I was talking this about girls that I would work with or in theater. They would always talk about Sex and the City. Oh, did you see that episode? Can you believe you broke up with her with a Post-it note? Oh my God, what And I would explain. I'd be like, oh, well, I also saw that episode, and he's not an asshole for doing that. Okay, this is blah, 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 so, because women.
You had this totally different perspective that we never got to hear because you had this straight guy's perspective on this show that was written by gay dudes,
Yes,
I think one of
the
the funniest thing you come up with is there isn't a man in this show, not one, except Big.
Big, yeah, I'll put Big as a man. Unfortunately, Aiden was a man. I know guys like him too. Burger's definitely a man. Burger was the one I related to the most.
Aiden was a beta.
Yeah, huh? Who?
Aiden was a beta.
Yeah, he was. Unfortunately, they exist. They're out there. There's more of them now than there was back then.
Yeah.
He's married to Bo Derek in real life.
Yes, which is bizarre. She's like 30 years older than him.
Yeah,
so this is a very weird thing.
But it's like the character of Jack Berger, I related to him because I understood that guy. I was very much like him back then, especially. Okay, so he was not a mystery to me at all. I understood everything that he did. That was probably the only character I could really understand was Jack Berger. Okay, I understood Big, but I'm not a multimillionaire. I wasn't a Wall Street investment banker, so I don't know that aspect of his life. All the guys that these girls date are all millionaires. They're all professionals. They're all CEOs.
Which is just so usual.
It's a fantasy. I get it. It's a fantasy. But come on, realistically, no.
I lived in a city as a pretty single girl for a long time in Chicago. I don't think I dated a millionaire even once. Not even once. And if anybody could have done it, it was me. But I not even once. They weren't that plentiful. Like you didn't go to a bar and you just had 10 millionaires to pick from. It just didn't.
No, well, not even that. The millionaires hit on them. They don't hit on anybody. The millionaires approach them. You got all these 20-something-year-old girls here.
Unbelievable.
Showing off their cleavage, and the guy makes a beeline towards the middle-aged girl.
Right.
Like, come on. I think the only thing I did on my channel that was different was I started reviewing Sex and the City because nobody else was doing it. Okay, there was plenty of people reviewing Sex and the City, but they weren't reviewing it from a straight man's point of view. They weren't reviewing it from what a typical guy would think about this stuff because guys weren't watching this show. They were none of my guys.
There was another review that you did that I loved a lot. You guys should go look it up. Lucy and Ricky? What was the name of the show?
That movie last year. Yeah.
I loved that review you did.
Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem.
I've never even seen the show, but I listened to your review anyway. I've never even seen the movie or I don't know if it was a series or whatever, but I loved listening to your review of it. You're really good at this, Diego. You're really good at I think getting down to the basics. Now, you did a recent one where you have been tearing apart chick flicks, which, okay, look, chick flicks are absolutely scorn worthy on some level. Okay. And I watched your Pretty Woman series, and because that is one of I didn't finish the whole thing, but I'm in the middle of it, but that is one of the movies that I think actually is a good one. I like it. But not because I agree with you. I agree totally with you that it is completely asinine. The entire storyline, completely idiotic, but for whatever reason, Julia Roberts and Richard Gere just have great chemistry. The writing was funny, and so if you make me laugh, I like it. But I totally agree with you on every level. That movie is totally ridiculous. There is no way that a guy like Richard Gere, who plays that character of Ed Lewis, who's like a multi-billionaire, there's no way he's going to pick up a hooker and keep her. Like, he might pick one up, but he's certainly not going to keep her.
No fall in love with her.
And fall in love with her. Yeah, absolutely not. Lisa Franceschi sent a Rumble rant. Don't forget, rants for pants, guys. I lost lots of weight. I need new pants. Lisa Franceschi sent one, and she says, hello, Megan. Love your guest. Yes, Diego is excellent. He's an excellent guest. But yeah, so Diego does these hilarious reviews. You guys definitely need to check it out, because you will hear. Here's one I don't know if you've done yet that I kind of want you to do, but kind of don't want you to do, because, it's my favorite movie ever. You're probably going to hate it. Have you done a review of You've Got Mail?
It's on the list.
Don't be nice. Just be nice, Diego. It's my favorite movie. And I'll tell you what, I don't think Nora Ephron has ever done a better movie than that one. Not even Sleepless in Seattle. That one was dumb, although the writing was good and the dialogue was funny. But You've Got Mail, I think cannot be a better movie. Like, it just couldn't have been better if they tried. But I'm sure you disagree.
I saw that movie when it first came out. Okay, so I remember it. Email was like a new thing back then. Remember,
yes,
in the 90s,
remember
late 90s.
The dial-up tone that you had to get.
I had a CompuServe. I had CompuServe back then. Yeah, I remember.
That's why I think partially why it speaks to me so much is because we lived that. We lived through that time where you really could have an online relationship with someone. I think we all did, meeting in a chat room. You would go on these AOL chat rooms. And I had a back and forth with someone for like a year that I never met.
I never know what it looked like. Yeah.
No idea. No clue. There was no social media, profiles, none of that. Just letters back and forth. And so that was a thing that a lot of us did.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you start seeing all those shows on 2020 about how the rapist used the internet to seduce his victims and stuff, so.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's like the Craigslist killer. And well, speaking of killers, that's why we're here today. We're actually doing True Crime Tuesday. And I was hoping to kind of make this a thing, a weekly thing, because I can only do politics for so long, Diego. And then I want to kill myself or be murdered or something because I can't take it. Are you a true crime fan?
Yes, I always have been. Actually, my major in college was actually criminology.
Oh, shut up.
Believe it or not, criminal justice. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you've got a connection to Gacy, as all of us from Chicago kind of do. I remember the day that they put Gacy to death.
I watched it on TV. Yeah.
There were literal parties in the streets on that day. People left their houses, went out into the street, and cheered and clapped.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know if you're not from Chicago and you weren't alive at the time. I don't think you could understand how much this man terrorized a city. I remember, even though I was really little, the killer clown thing was everywhere. Parents were terrified. People were terrified of what was happening. And when I still remember sitting in front of the television and watching them pull bodies from his house. I mean, this went on for days. It went on for days and days. It was like, oh, they're still going with the bodies.
33 bodies in his crawl space.
But this man was an absolute psychopath. And so I watched the documentary on Netflix, The Conversations with a Killer, John Wayne Gacy Confessions of John Wayne Gacy or something like that. I'll pull it up in a second so we can look at it. But what I was shocked to learn, Diego, was that he was arrested for sodomy of 2 boys in Idaho, and he was sentenced to 10 years in prison, of which he only served 15 months.
Yeah, connections.
Oh, wow. I mean, that was unbelievable to me. How did Gacy come into your your world? How did you first learn about Gacy?
Well, when he was committing his crimes, I was a toddler, so, I didn't, I wasn't old enough to understand what was really happening. I think it was later on. I think it was in the 90s. They made a 2-part movie on TV about John Wayne Gacy. It starred Brian Dennehy. Okay. And Margot Kidder was in it too. And it was a story about how the cops caught Gacy. Okay. And it was a 2-part miniseries on TV. They used to do those things, remember? Brian Dennehy played John Wayne Gacy in that movie.
I feel like I remember that.
I was
like
so terrified because that was nearby. You know, I was living in Chicago when I saw that movie. I was like, that was like right here. Like, oh my God, you know, it shocked me that this stuff happened so nearby where I was. And then I started doing some research on it. I started watching some documentaries on him and stuff. He was Pogo the Clown. He entertained little kids. You know, he did go to jail in Idaho. But the reason he got out was he was a member of the JCs, which is the Junior Chamber of Commerce group. Okay, a young businessman, basically. He was even a member while he was in prison. He was a member of the JCs in there. Okay, so he was looked upon as an up and coming citizen, you know, a business owner. He hung out with those type of people. Okay, and that's why he got out.
Are you saying that the JCs happened before that prison stint? Because I thought it was after. Oh.
Yeah, you know, he created it. He created it inside the prison. He was already a member, and then when he went to jail, he started up a new branch.
Yeah, he only got 15 months because they said he was a model prisoner, and that he was even helping other prisoners. You know, like, can you imagine being helped by John Wayne Gacy?
Well, his father-in-law at that time owned all the Kentucky Fried Chickens in that area. So he married into a very wealthy family. So I'm sure his father-in-law had a lot of pull, you know, to get him out. Basically, get out of town, get out of here, get away from my daughter, that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, he said in one of his taped confessions that was on the documentary that his father-in-law was someone he was always at odds with, that he couldn't make his father-in-law happy. He couldn't I think, you know, there's a part of me that thinks his father-in-law saw through it. He saw through the facade, and he couldn't quite get past it. And yes, the chat's pointing out that Gacy was a very prominent Democrat. He was actually a precinct captain. Now, if you're from Chicago, you understand what that means. And in Chicago, if you're an alderman or a precinct, the precinct captains actually have some of the most power in your neighborhood. Those are the guys, okay?
Yep.
And by the way, you said Pogo the Clown. I had to pull this up because what the hell kind of parent would hire this guy?
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, this was the era of Ronald McDonald, okay? Bozo the Clown was very popular at that time, you know? So, you know, clowns weren't considered scary. They got scarier like in the 80s. But in the 70s, I mean, I watched Bozo the Clown every morning. You know, I love Bozo the Clown.
Oh, I loved Bozo. That was a Chicago thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Bozo and the Bozo buckets. I always wanted to be on that show.
The grand prize game, you know,
Grand prize game. Yes.
You know, and Cookie always wanted to leave the Grand March and he couldn't. Yeah.
Cookie was
No,
weird.
I grew up
hated
watching
Cookie's wig.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There was something about clowns back then. Nobody thought clowns were scary until Gacy.
Yeah, and Ronald McDonald. Remember Ronald McDonald? He was very popular at that time. You know, I mean, the Happy Meal. You know.
Oh God. I mean, it just, what kind of, like, but how do you hire this guy? I remember my mother one time hired a clown to be funny for my 16th birthday. She threw me a surprise party and with all my friends and hired a clown, like a kid's clown. And I remember thinking, what is wrong with you? Although it was funny. It wasn't, but it was a female clown and she wasn't terrifying. But if a guy like this had showed up at my door, I think I would have been running.
I don't think Gacy got paid to do the clown. I think he did it as a charity to kind of like to increase his exposure, you know, to make him look good to the community. I think he did it for charity purpose. He did it for children's hospitals and stuff like that. You know, he didn't get paid for it. He made money from his construction business.
He had a thing for clowns though, because in his house there were these creepy paintings of clowns everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, there was something with this guy and clowns, and they weren't like happy looking clowns either. They were very weird looking clowns. We got another Rumble rant here from Lisa. Lisa, thank you. She says, for your pants. Thank you. Hashtag rants for pants. You know, it's so funny because you guys, the last pants I bought, I already shrunk out of them. I had to buy new ones. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm disappearing, Diego. It's kind of great. All right. So Gacy, so he serves his time in which he was supposed to do 10 years and only ended up doing 15 years because he was really good at manipulating people, which is what the scary thing is about these guys, right? Why do I watch serial killer documentaries? Why do I do this? I ask myself this all the time, and I swear this is the answer. for me anyway, it's one of my greatest fears, and I hate to even say this out loud because then I feel like some sicko somewhere is listening and going to target me. But it's one of my greatest fears ever. I think the worst way to die is death by serial killer. So I want to know who they are. I want to know how to spot them. I want to know what they do and how they act. And I feel like every time I get to know one of these guys and I dig into their, how their MO and how they did stuff, I end up going, they would have fucking got me. Like I have no clue. I would not have known. That's the scary thing about Gacy in particular. He was married 2 times with families, with kids, like nice wife, nice kids, nice house, precinct captain, volunteered for everything. Like he wasn't the guy that never he's like the BTK killer, right?
Yeah.
Head of his church, doing all this stuff, like not hiding to himself, not being the guy that nobody ever talked to or the weirdo loner in the corner. No.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Well, that was part of his facade. He wanted you to think that he was somebody special. He wanted you to think that he was not just a normal person, but an outstanding person. It was the ego. He wanted to be looked up to. He was a very prominent business owner in Des Plaines, very well respected. He was part of all the social clubs, very active in politics. There's even a picture of him with Rosalind Carter, the first lady.
God.
He had that framed in his den, in his house, So yeah, he was very, he presented this image of himself as more than what he was. He did it to cover up who he really was. Okay, and I think it started from his childhood. His dad would abuse him. His dad would beat the crap out of him because he was a sissy boy. He was a very sissy, very effeminate boy. Wasn't good in sports. Didn't like to go hunting. Didn't like to do any of the stuff that his dad did. Okay, he liked to do girly things, so his dad used to abuse him. So he learned at an early age how to cover himself with heterosexuality, how to make himself look like a normal man. Okay, to hide who he really was. He learned that at a very young age, and he just kept that con going.
Even after he's been caught, right, and he's on these tapes and he's telling his story, he is in complete denial that he's homosexual at all. There's this one part on the tapes where he says there's 3 sexualities: heterosexual, homosexual, and bisexual. And he considered himself bisexual, which he believed the definition of was just someone who will have sex with anyone. Didn't matter who, because it wasn't about love. Never any feelings about it. So he believed that he was in love with women, but would get off with whoever, with men, but it wasn't gay. He's like, no homo. Yeah, boys, right? Not even men. How terrible is that?
Well, if you remember that interview, he also said he didn't do it. He was innocent.
Right. He also maintained his innocence, which was bizarre. Like, how did 30 some bodies get into your crawl space, John?
He said the only thing he was guilty of was not reporting a crime. Okay, he said it was his foreman that worked for him was the one that was killing the kids and putting them in
his own crawl space.
And put him into his. It wasn't him.
Which
is
interesting.
A guy named Baker.
Then why was he in there covering it up with lime and more cement? Because his wife said she smelled something, and he said, "Oh, it's
that was
sewage."
His only crime was not reporting it.
Oh Lord, Lord, no, absolutely not. I'll tell you, I really like this genre on Netflix. I think they do a really good job of presenting these true crime documentaries. I thought that the Gacy one, Conversations with the Killer, here, I'm pulling it up now so you guys can see it. Hold on. One of the things that I loved about this documentary in particular is because I get homesick a lot for Chicago, even though I'm never going to go back there.
You're not missing anything. I've been back there. Ugh.
I know. I've been back as well, and I'm definitely not missing anything. I can't play this, but I can show you guys some stills from it. But this is called Conversations with the Killer, the John Wayne Gacy tapes. And one of the things I loved about this is that his lawyer is such a Chicago guy, Gacy's lawyer. It reminds me of my dad and every Chicago guy I ever knew, just watching this with all this Chicago footage and the Chicago cops and just the way everybody talks. And it's just, it makes
Doubles,
yeah,
doubles.
doubles. It just makes me, have good memories about Chicago. As weird as that sounds, because this is about a serial killer, but there's so much Chicago in this. There's so much Chicago culture.
Well, the first American serial killer was in Chicago.
Well, who's that?
H.H. Holmes.
I don't know who that is. I don't know.
Oh, the world's 1893 World's Fair. H.H. Holmes. Yeah, he had that castle that he built.
Oh, wait, I do know that.
Hotel.
The murder hotel. That was the
H.H. Holmes.
weirdest. That was the weirdest story ever.
Yeah.
This is Gacy's lawyer, and oh my gosh, sorry, I don't know why it keeps flickering like this. Sam Amirani, this guy, I mean, just like every Chicago guy I ever met in my whole life, this guy right here, and listening to him tell this story and how terrible for him to find out eventually that like his client is guilty. Like he knows he's guilty and he's trying to get him caught. It's the most amazing story. So one of the things I love about some of these documentaries is that you get to see real policing, right? And how the police, track down a killer like this. Yeah. And in the end, when his lawyer comes up in the first part of this series, the lawyer says, I get my client, Gacy calls me. And I know Gacy, he's a good guy. I've known him for a long time. He says, would you find out why the Des Plaines police are tailing me and get him off my ass, basically? Why are they tailing me? And his lawyer's like, yeah, sure. I'll call him. I calls him up. What are you doing tailing Gacy? Well, it turns out, they've been on his tail because there's missing kids and it's all coming back to him. And they can't pick him up. They don't have the evidence to pick him up. So what are they doing? They're tailing him all over the city. And instead of backing off, they become even more prominent. They're even walking into sitting right next to him in the booth in diners and stuff. And he's like, well, you might as well join me, because you're just hanging out with me. He even almost let them in his house. That was
he did once he did. That's one of the cops noticed the smell coming out of the vents.
That's right. But they didn't have a warrant, right?
Yeah, they had no warrant. Right.
And the first time they did get a warrant, they didn't find anything, which is, it's incredible. Yep. What eventually got Gacy, and this was really something, because they couldn't pick him up, but they were after him. It was really snowy and in Chicago, really bad weather. And they're after him. They're following him. And they witness him hand a bag of weed to a gas station attendant, and that's how they arrested him. Yeah. That's unbelievable. It's like, of all the things that you could get John Wayne Gacy arrested for, it was the weed that allowed them to make the arrest, which, in retrospect, I'm thinking, well, geez, now that it's legal everywhere, that's one less thing the cops have to use against you. Yeah. They might never have caught him without that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they already had a case against him. They already gotten a warrant. They hadn't found anything yet. So they needed to hold him in jail long enough for them to be able to get the warrant and go to his house.
Right.
Okay?
They couldn't
people that follow him everywhere.
Yeah.
What did him in was the receipt, the photo receipts.
That's right.
The last victim he had, Robert Peace, the teenager, he had picked up some photos at the drugstore that he worked at when he was abducted by Gacy. Gacy talked in his car, and that receipt that this kid had in his jacket ended up inside Gacy's house.
Yep.
Like, how the hell did it get there? You didn't even know this kid. How did it get into your house? How did the receipt from his photographs get in his house on the last day that anyone saw him alive? And then they found his body in the river. So, that's what finally did him in. Of course. And then, of course, they found all the other ones.
And there were a lot of bodies they didn't find, right? A lot of victims that they did not find that they believe he probably dumped in the river, and who knows what happened.
And some of them got away. Some of them reported him to the cops, but they didn't want to believe him. They thought you're just a gay prostitute.
That's the thing that is so frustrating, is that some of these kids came forward and said, look what, he did this to me, but it was so shameful. And the police just were like, well, he's a prostitute or whatever.
Yeah.
William says, Harold Schechter writes the best true crime. His book on Holmes is excellent. I'll have to look into that. One thing I have not done really is read books on true crime. I mostly watch the docu-series and the documentaries, but I would like to read. There's a victim of Gacy's who survived, who wrote a book. It's out of print right now because I looked it up the other night to see I think last night I looked it up, and but it's out of print. And that's unfortunate because it looked he was one who escaped, but Gacy, he was the one who, when he was on the stand and had to recount what happened, he began throwing up on the stand, and they had to take him off the stand and cancel court for the day. I often wonder, do you know, Diego, was that trial televised?
I don't think it was. They had an artist sketch. They had a guy who was doing the color pencil sketch of the trial. Yeah, because I know there was a scene, because I saw the sketches. They brought in a big billboard with all the victims on there. It was pretty.
I wish that we had. I wish that all trials were televised. I think that it's a great way for people to learn how the system works, but also as a piece of history. I mean, these cases, they should be out there. They should be there in the public domain, to go back and I was thinking about this last night. I'm like, the Night Stalkers case, which we're going to talk about later. That one, it looked like there were cameras in the courtroom, but I can't find that trial anywhere. But I know that NBC must have that footage. I would love to sit on this channel with you guys and watch the Night Stalkers trial, because it was a shit show from beginning to end, including a juror who fell in love with him. Like, I am not kidding you. It was so nuts.
Yeah.
But where the hell is the footage? Like, why isn't it out there in the public domain? It's something I'm actually considering calling NBC just to find out, like, do you have this in the archive somewhere, and can you release it to like court TV? Because man, would that be amazing.
I didn't watch the documentaries. I started watching the Night Stalker documentary. I watched a couple documentaries on John Wayne Gacy. Most of everything I learned about serial killers, I started studying them many years ago, like when I was a teenager. The first one I was obsessed with was Jack the Ripper. When I was a kid, it was around the 100-year anniversary. So people were talking about Jack the Ripper again. He never got caught. So I started reading about it. And then I learned about the other ones after that. But you just mentioned a minute ago about they need to televise these trials. That can be good and it can be bad. I mean, they televised OJ, and look what happened with that. Okay,
I don't think that's because it was televised. I think it was because the prosecution really screwed up. I mean,
but it made a lot of celebrities.
It was worthwhile to watch, to see how prosecutors can kill a case, can screw up the case, and the police too. Bad evidence collection and bad handling of evidence, and not planting stuff like that's insane what they did in that case. And I realized. And I think it made law enforcement and prosecutors more careful. I don't know. I'm always a fan of televised trials. But maybe that's the journalist in me. I just think that we should be open and transparent about what our court system does, because I've seen too much corruption inside a courtroom that needs to be exposed, including prosecutors who are, doing Brady violations and railroading defendants. Nobody needs that. Like this, we need fair trials. OJ got his trial, and unfortunately,
we all got our trial.
With the prosecution and the cops screwed it up. It's not the media's fault.
Yeah, there was a lot of people screwed that one up. I mean, Marcia Clark did a terrible job. They went after the whole. He had a history of abusing his wife instead of going after the murder evidence that they had. They're trying to establish a pattern. Is like, come on. It's obviously he did it. You should have gone after the forensic. What was in there? What do we find? Where's the DNA? Where's all this, the fingerprints? They threw that stuff out so they could go with this narrative and just and of course, the defense turned it all about racism. It's all about racism. If you indict him, it's because you're racist. That's what they turned it into. So.
Well, the good news is about OJ is he hasn't killed anybody else. So apparently he was only a danger to his ex-wife and the neighbor. And that's unfortunate that, he got away with it. But that's going to happen. And for justice to work, if the evidence isn't there, or if the prosecution fails to convince a jury, that person must walk free. That's how it works. It's better for 10 guilty men to go free than one innocent man to lose his freedom. I truly believe in that.
He wrote a book, his confession. You know that, right?
No.
He wrote a book where he confessed.
No.
Yes, I read the book.
How? How did he confess?
If you look at it, look at the book, in big letters it says, "I did it." And then when you really look closely, it says, There's a lot, if I did it. He actually wrote down how he killed her. But he made it into a third person.
To say if he had,
he says,
this is how I would
so right
have done
before
it.
the crime, he says, I was over there, I was yelling at her, and then one of my friends named Randy showed up, and he decided to go in there, and he did something. When he came out, he was covered in blood, that kind of thing. My friend Randy did it, that kind of thing. He wrote that book.
Well, he can't be tried twice, so he actually could confess,
Yep.
and it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference. So, yeah, Pootie Tang says Chicago should be in the Guinness Book for the most domestic shootings in a single year. It's funny. My daughter, she's in criminal justice right now. She goes to a technical school, and she's almost a senior, and she's studying criminal justice, and they have them go to like a laser shooting. They have a laser shooting range there. So they practice different scenarios of, they give you, and bad guys pop up and you have to shoot them or not shoot people who are not bad. Anyway, she's really good at it. She always hits her targets and she always gets headshots. And her instructor goes, "Oh, look at you from Chicago, showing everyone how it's done." She goes, "Well, when you're in Chicago, they issue you a gun when you're a toddler." You have to learn how to shoot if you're from Chicago. Yeah, she's a crack up. But Chicago's a rough place. It's a rough place. And there have been a lot of high profile crimes. Obviously, you're going to have that.
Don't forget the Tylenol murder. The Tylenol killer was.
Oh my God, that's right. That's psycho.
And they never caught him.
That's right. They never did. They never did.
They caught a woman who poisoned her husband and tried to make it look like it was a Tylenol killer.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Golly.
But they didn't actually catch the killer.
That's what brought us all that really tough packaging. Now you can't get into packages. And
the childproof cap. Yeah, exactly.
It's because of that guy who's running around putting cyanide and Tylenol and killing people, which was really sick. I don't know why on earth. Oh, thank you, Raceland. Raceland 9000 sent some money for hashtag rants for clown pants. Gacy, man, he was the weirdest, absolutely the strangest and most psychotic guy. And yet there's so many of them. It's weird. I want to know how to spot these guys, but it seems damn near impossible.
Yeah. There's not much way. You would have to know their backgrounds to be able to spot. When they said there's certain things that all serial killers have. They all either started fires when they were kids, they bedwet, or they tortured
mutilate animals.
Yeah, those are like the three indicators.
And also, I think there's a combination of things too. So it's like if you have one of those things plus an addiction to like violent pornography, it's like a really bad sign. Like that's a real bad sign. Which brings us to, I don't know, do we have more to talk about on Gacy? Are we missing anything interesting in that case?
No, I remember when he was executed, he claimed his innocence throughout his whole entire lifetime. He said he never did it. I think he was just a closeted homosexual, and that he wanted to control people. He wanted to control boys. I think that's what it was, and I think that he was just a depraved human being. And I'm glad they pulled a switch on him. I am.
And in Illinois, that's a tough thing because we had over 21 death sentences overturned in Illinois for DNA evidence that showed that they were not guilty. So. In my opinion, because I have such a low opinion of the state, I don't think the state should have the ability or the power to take your life because they get it wrong so often. I don't see what's wrong with life in prison as long as there's no hope for parole. I think
it actually costs more money in appeals to execute somebody than it does to just let them stay in jail for the rest of their life.
It does. And then here's the other problem with the execution. They moved from hanging and firing squad, which was perfectly fine and cheap and effective. And they went to the electric chair, which was a total disaster. And then which was, totally cruel and unusual. So a lot of people didn't die right away. It was extremely painful. Then you have the lethal injection, which is still used all over the place. And lethal injection is now being proven to be very cruel and unusual as well. Also, guys not dying. There was one recently who was on the table on the third try going, come on, seriously, again? Like what? This is a bullet would solve this problem. Like if the state is going to kill you, please make it quick. Please bring back the firing squad if that's what you're going to do. See, to me, I just think, let's stop this. We have enough in the budget. We can just leave these guys locked up for life. My sister brought up a case though that was really interesting, and I don't know the names of the men involved, but there was one case where there were two criminals who had put in were put in prison for life without parole. They had a couple of life sentences, and both of them continue to kill in prison. They killed several inmates and also guards. And so the judge finally said about both of them, you can't be controlled. You've shown you cannot be controlled. So you're both getting the death sentence. And they did put him to death. I mean, in that case, that's like a extreme case where other people in the jail can't be safe. So I can see that. But the state, do you remember Rolando Cruz? Do you remember that story?
No.
Rolando Cruz. He was convicted of what was her name? The little girl who was murdered in Chicago, Nicolette. What was her name? Nicarico. What was her last name? Hold on. So he was one of the ones. Let me see if I can find it. Janine Nicarico. Rolando Cruz was convicted of her murder. She was a little girl. I don't remember how old she was. Let me see if I can look this up real quick. It was in 1985. Two men, Rolando Cruz and Alejandro Hernandez, were wrongfully convicted of this abduction, rape, and murder in DuPage County. They were both sentenced to death. Now, it was probably the case that this murder was gang connected, and Rolando definitely had some information that nobody else had, which is why he was convicted. But DNA evidence many years later proved it wasn't him. So he was released. The state had to give him, I don't know, $20 million. And he ended up moving right next to me, Diego. Right next to me.
He's innocent. He didn't do it.
In Portage Park. I lived in Portage Park in Chicago. And he moved in right next door. And at the time, I was working at WLS AM. and Jay Marvin, I don't know if you ever listened to WLS, but it was a talk station. And Jay Marvin was on at the time, and he would do the late night show. He was a cool guy. He was a very interesting guy. And I remember telling him, going into work and being like, Jay, dude, there's Rolando Cruz just moved in next door to me. And he was like,
I can imagine that.
He was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, are you kidding? Because he had covered all of this. He had covered these stories. He's like, are you kidding? I'm like, no, he really lives next door. And like, he was a nice guy too. He was built like you, he was a big guy, like really big. He'd been doing nothing but working out in prison, clearly. He was covered in tattoos. And like, he was very congenial, very nice man. He terrified me. My husband liked him. They talked a lot over the fence. But he would with his $20 million, he like bought fancy cars and what you would expect somebody who like won the lotto to do. But I felt it was terrible because you're still terrified of the guy, even though he didn't kill this little girl. Who knows what happens to you in jail?
Yeah. Maybe he's a killer now. Like I can just picture that in my head. Him knocking on your door. Hello, Mrs. Foxell. My name is Rolando Cruz. They say I killed a little girl, but I didn't.
I met him in the backyard. We had these low chain link fences, and I met him in the backyard when he was moving in. And he was like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hi."
I come in for a cup of coffee.
Holy crap! Right? It's just terrifying. Which sounds terrible because he didn't do it. The man was innocent. But my Style Center Rumble Rant says, I think only the family of the victim should have the say about execution of the murderer. Well, here's the thing with that. Has there really ever been anyone who felt better about losing their loved one in a violent way by the murder of the person who did it? Has anyone actually ever felt better? Has this ever been studied? Because I find it very hard to believe that anything would make me feel like I had closure, or like the murder of someone else could help me get over the murder of my loved one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What if there's more than one victim? What if there's more than one victim?
Right. And the families are
one
arguing.
Victim forgives them, the other one doesn't.
Yeah. Right. No, it's a tough question. And I used to be a very big fan of capital punishment, but after witnessing so many false convictions, including the father of Riley Fox, that was a terrible case where the police do you remember this? This was also in Will County, Illinois. Riley Fox was a little 4-year-old or 5-year-old who was a 3-year-old. Sorry, she was a 3-year-old. And she was murdered in 2004. And the police terrorized her father, kept him in interrogation for like 48 hours, no sleep, no food,
Yeah.
showed him, traumatized him with pictures of his dead daughter, and told him he did it.
Yeah.
Told him he did it in a blackout or something. And
Yeah.
eventually he broke down and was like, did I do this? They locked him up for this. And of course, it turns out it wasn't him. It was some other, some random, what was it? Scott Eby. He was later charged on 5 counts of first-degree murder, and he was linked by DNA. So again, another DNA evidence that overturned a death sentence case.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was Kathleen Zellner who overturned that conviction. So she's a local Chicago crime hero. Kathleen Zellner. She has worked with the Innocence Project. I'm not sure if she is in private practice now or not. But that was an interesting case as well.
A lot of times the cops they have tunnel vision. They already think they know who the suspect is, and they try to get the evidence to match the suspect as opposed to the other way around. The evidence is supposed to tell you who did it, not the other way around.
Yeah, and Chicago cops don't have a really great reputation, shall we say?
I used to I told you I managed some nightclubs in Chicago. I managed the Hang Up for a while, and we had a great relationship with the cops. Okay, because whenever we needed them, they would be there. We let them drink for free and stuff, and we didn't call 911. We'd call our cell phones. We had their phone numbers. Okay, so whenever we needed cops in the club, they would just show up immediately. We're in the Gold Coast, Rush and Elm Street, right there. And let me tell you something. They, if we make their wallets a little bit bigger, they'll give us a heads up on whatever's going on. If the fire marshal is about to inspect us or something, or if something's going on, you take care of the cops, they take care of you. Okay, it's all under the table.
That's Chicago, man. That's Chicago. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. It's always been that way. Do you remember the driver's license scandal that took down the governor?
Oh, Blagojevich?
No, the other one, Ryan.
No, he tried to sell Obama's senator seat.
George Ryan went to jail before Blagojevich.
Before Blagojevich, yeah, that's right.
George Ryan went to jail because of the Willis family. 5
That's
children were killed by a truck driver who had bought his license, and it all went back to George Ryan. It was unbelievable. Here's the crazy part, Diego. My dad bought a driver's license. How sick is this? So when this happened, okay, my dad, you guys know, you've seen my dad on here. His advice to his grandchildren is to steal, because if you don't steal, you're stupid, because everyone is stealing. He's such a Chicago guy. It's like not even funny. But he bought one. And I'm like, he told me this once. And I'm like, after the scandal, he goes, geez, I got one of those. I'm like, what did you do that for? You didn't need to buy a driver's license. He's like, it needed to be renewed and I didn't have time. So I just gave a guy some money. I'm like, what guy? He's like, the county guy. I'm like, you gave a county guy, like just some random county guy, a bag of money, and he gave you a driver's license? And yeah, he is a hoot, Shawnette. Like my dad is like, he's like, yeah, I mean, everybody did. That is Chicago. It's true. And of course, nobody's thinking, these guys, when you need to just get your driver's license or whatever, no one's thinking, well, this is going to end in the death of little children. But that's how Chicago works. Chicago is just a weird place where if you're connected to, and you have to be connected to do business. My dad was he owned a building. He had a grocery store and he had a bunch of different businesses in this building. And you'd have city inspectors come all the time. And these freaking city inspectors, man, they would get on you for the craziest stuff. One time I was there when my dad threw an inspector out of the store, and he called her names I can't repeat. Well, I could repeat them. But he called her, he said, don't ever come back in this place, you vicious C word, I think he called her. And the next thing you know, we had a new inspector and we passed everything and it was fine. And I remember asking him at the time, like, Dad, you're really going to get in trouble one of these days. They're never going to give you the inspection pass if you throw the inspectors out. And he was like, you don't know what you're talking about. It'll be fine. Sure enough. I don't know. You're just in Chicago. He probably gave another guy a bag of money. I don't know. I love you, Dad.
Probably.
But that's
the way Chicago's always been that way. It was founded that way. It's a very corrupt city. I know that.
I know, right? Well,
It's part of its charm.
I
This is Al Capone land, I mean, come on.
I did it. I did it one time. I used the connections one time because there are all these unfair rules, right? The rules are bad. And that's what happens when you have too much government interference and too much government oversight. You get into a situation where the bureaucratic red tape is so ridiculous. It's easier and it just makes more sense to just pay a guy, right?
Yeah.
Or just make a phone call and ask for a favor. And I had this dog who was literally, I don't know, a week past her rabies shot. A week passed. And she was, we were in the backyard at my parents' house with the fence down, and she was very vicious. You would not, and I had a big sign, beware of dog. She didn't like men she didn't know. And my sister's friend, who's this guy, comes around the back of the house, and we're all out there, and we're all screaming at him, don't open the fence. We got to get the dog. Don't open the fence. He opens the gate like, oh, no, it's no problem. She goes running at him. She bites his knee. She just grabs his pants, really, and her teeth scraped his knee. He wasn't even bleeding, Diego. You would have laughed at this guy because he made the biggest deal about this. He went to the hospital, Diego, and he reported my dog. And he came into my backyard and saying no. So anyway, because the dog was past her rabies by a week, she had to be quarantined at the vet. This poor dog is dying. She was so anxious. She was shitting herself and wouldn't eat anything. And the doctor kept telling me I don't know if she's going to make it. She's not doing well. So I happen to know that one of my dad's buddies was the head of the county animal control, who was at the same golf club. So I called him. I didn't tell my dad I was going to do this because he would have said no. So I called him myself and I just said, listen, doc, I got a problem. And I told him what happened. And he goes, all right, that file's going to end up on my desk on Monday. And I'll make sure that it ends up in the garbage can. And I will go and he goes, here's what you can do. I'll tell the vet that she can quarantine at home and we won't put it on the record. And you just keep her there until the time's up and it'll be fine. I go to pick her up because I get the call from the vet. I get there to get her. And the vet says to me, who do you know? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, I have talked to Doc Palmer so many times in several years. This guy doesn't do this for anybody. And I said, I don't know. I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know. He was a nice guy, but it was hilarious. He's like, that guy is the meanest guy I ever met. It was funny. But I got him a nice box of cigars. He was happy with that.
Well, that was sweet of you. Yeah.
All right. So the next one that we're going to talk about, and you guys, this one is so weird. So weird. This is probably the serial killer that scares me the most is Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Yes.
Now, oh God, this guy. What makes him so terrifying is that he had no preference whatsoever. This guy would go after kids. He would rape or murder or both. He would murder in all kinds of different ways. I mean, murder with a hammer, murder with ligature, murder with stomping you to death. He didn't have a preference. This man was so odd for a killer to not have a signature at all. The only signature he ever left at the scene was that Avia shoe, the shoe print.
Yeah.
What do you know about the Night Stalker? What do you know about Richard Ramirez?
Well, I know he was born in El Paso, Texas. Okay, Mexican family. He had an older brother that went off to Vietnam. He was too young to go to Vietnam. His older brother went to Vietnam, and his older brother was a psychopath. He was the kind of guy that in Vietnam, he would keep heads in his backpack. You know what I mean? He was that kind of person.
I thought it was his uncle. No, it was his brother.
Oh no, it was his uncle. You're right. It was his uncle.
Okay.
It was his uncle. He would have heads in his backpack.
Oh God.
Okay? He was the kind of guy that had made necklaces out of ears, that kind of thing. He would rape the girls there. He was that kind of a soldier.
Did he ever get convicted or charged with any of these things?
I don't think so. No. But this is Vietnam. A lot. You just look the other way.
That's terrible. That's awful.
Yeah, my dad was in Vietnam. I know. All right, but
Did he
So yeah,
witness?
so
Did he witness stuff like that? Guys like that?
well, my dad was in the Air Force. He was an MP. He was military police. So he was like the guard for guys that did that kind of stuff. They got court-martialed.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
So
that's terrifying.
yeah, but we've all seen the Vietnam movies. The smoking the weed, the Jimi Hendrix music, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And his uncle came back to El Paso, and he was basically ended up mentoring a young Richard Ramirez. He basically mentored him. He was the first one that got him, smoking weed. He was the first person that got him a girl so he could lose his virginity. That was basically his influence growing up. His mentor was this guy. And this guy actually murdered somebody in front of Richard.
He murdered his wife in front of Richard, and he blew her head off with a gun in front of him when he was 12 years old.
Yeah,
and interestingly enough, Richard Ramirez told an interviewer that he became interested in serial killers at the age of 12 and 13. 12 to 13, which is exactly the same time as this murder happened in front of him.
Yeah.
Which, is in a way very sad, because you wonder, if that had not happened, would the world not have been terrorized by this man? Would that thing in his brain not have broken? Because that's trauma. That is trauma. And somehow that trauma in his brain got linked to sexual excitement. And this is the thing that I have a hard time understanding, Diego. I have a very hard time understanding these psychosexual killers. How sex and violence get linked together, which is why I think it's very bad. I think it's a very bad idea for people to be watching violent pornography. I think it's a really bad idea. I think, it leads to bad things. And that sort of linking those two things together is a recipe for disaster. Obviously. They also.
Now, I don't think that violent pornography causes people to do this stuff, but I do think that it could like maybe trigger someone who already has those tendencies within them.
I don't know. If you're a kid and you come across that at the age that he saw that violent thing happen, and you always associate, your first sexual experience with violence, I think that absolutely can break you. I think it can break your brain. And I think violent pornography, gonzo porn, that sort of stuff is sick. It shouldn't be happening.
That's what, Ted Bundy made that argument before he died. He blamed it all on pornography that he was exposed to as a young man. He says that's the reason he killed women, is because of all these, those True Detective magazines that would have like the back of a guy, you see a woman terrified and half naked, like that was the cover of every True Detective magazine when he was growing up, and he blamed it all on pornography. He said that's what caused him to kill the women. But I don't buy that. I don't think pornography helped, but I think it just
it could be a combination of things.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think so too.
That's the thing that kills us. That's the thing this is why we watch true crime, because we really don't know why these people do what they do, and we want to know. And yet, I think Richard Ramirez came the closest to telling us why. And it was in the documentary on Netflix, the one about the Night Stalker. There are some recordings of him, and in one of them he says, when a serial killer is in a frenzy, it's a frenzy, right? There's this frenzy that happens. And when it's over, all I wanted was for it to have lasted longer.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting thing for him to say that made me think, there's something there. There's something there about why they do it. Each time they do it, they're trying to make it last longer and longer, this particular frenzy. It's almost like an orgasm, right? Like this is the thing that they've been desiring for so long. And Ramirez said, the desire is so overwhelming that if it isn't acted on it, we're crushed underneath of it. We become crushed by it. And those two things that he said were like, oh, I wish we could figure out how to identify these people and like get them help before they start butchering people. So Richard Ramirez, he starts, and I don't think that his crimes are even known. I think he started killing probably a long time before he was found, and the murders that were linked to him. I think that that was probably not his first string of murders, if I had to guess. What do you think?
It's hard to say. I think that he just started. I think with him, I think it started off as an opportunity. He was a known robber and a burglar. He started off as a burglar, broke into people's houses while they were asleep and robbed them. Okay, I think one day he was happening to do that, and he took advantage of a woman there. He decided to kill her, and he got and rape her, and he got off on that. So his burglaries became rapes, and then they became murder. I think it was a progression. You got to remember, Richard Ramirez was a Satanist. He was a Satanist, a devout Satanist. He worshipped Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan. He was very much into Satanism. That was like his driving force. Was Satanism.
Do you think that was real? Do you think that was real? Because to me, it's like, I almost feel like with as much studying as he did of serial killers, because he admits that he did, he studied serial killers, and I think he wanted to be a part of that group. I almost feel like that's the Satanism stuff with him was meant for the cameras to make him as terrifying as possible. I'm not sure that he really had any real belief in it that drove him at all. When you look at the crime scenes, right? He's got all this creepy stuff all over the walls, carving in the walls, blood written in messages in blood written on the walls, and pentagrams. And it just, to me, it felt very staged for the maximum effect. And I don't know, there's something about it that makes me question how sincere that belief was with him.
Well, I think probably the media was covering these murders, and he was finally a celebrity, which is what he wanted.
He
wanted to be famous. He wanted to be a celebrity. His ego, and this was his way. So once he started getting media attention, I think he started doing the more theatrical stuff, the writings on the walls, all that kind of crap, But he was a devout Satanist before he moved to LA. He did read the Satanic Bible. He actually visited Anton LaVey in San Francisco, where he lived. The founder of the Church of Satan. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
No way.
So he was very much into it.
Did LaVey ever talk to anyone about meeting him?
Anton LaVey did talk about it. Yeah.
Did he?
Before he died,
Interesting.
But the thing, I think he was already a messed up individual, but I think the reason he loves Satanism so much is Satanism gives you permission to do whatever you want. Whereas the Bible tells you if you do this, you're going to go to hell. But Satanism says, yeah, if you want to do it. But just be prepared to face the consequences if you get caught. Okay. Yeah. And that's basically what Richard Ramirez, he wanted to commit he didn't want to work. He wanted to have a regular job. He liked breaking into people's houses, stealing their stuff, and selling it to a fence. And it was a crime of opportunity. There was people there asleep when he did it. He would kill them, rape them, whatever. He would kill the husband, then rape the wife right there, and then kill her. He did this a lot. Now there was a few people that survived. Okay, but Satanism was his excuse. If Satanism says it's okay to do whatever you want as long as you're willing to pay the consequences for it, so he used that as an excuse. And in Richard Ramirez's head, he saw himself as the hero. Believe it or not. He said, I'm the one that's risking everything, okay? Whenever I break into a house in the middle of the night, I don't know if the owner's awake. I don't know if the owner's got a gun.
Yeah.
I don't know that stuff.
For
all I know, I could get killed.
In one break-in, he shot both of the people in bed, a husband and wife, and the husband got up and chased him out of the house.
Chased him out, yep.
Which is incredible to me.
And testified in court. He testified in court too, yeah.
Yeah, so this, I'm hopefully I won't get hit with a copyright, and this is just a few seconds here of the beginning of Night Stalker on Netflix. But this is the hunt for a serial killer. One of the things that I loved about this was the police work involved.
Yeah.
The police officer who was in charge of this case was
Frank Salerno.
Frank Salerno was the guy who caught the Hillside Strangler.
Hillside Stranglers, that's right. Ken Bianchi and Angelo Buono. Yep.
But the cop who really grabbed my attention was his partner.
Yeah.
Gil Carrera.
Carrera.
Gil Carrera. Yeah, Mexican guy. So he's this kid. He's this kid from here. This is him. This kid from a rough part of town. He's I believe Mexican. He was
one of the victims was in his neighborhood.
Yes. And like here he is, like he's working hard on the police force. He wants to be homicide one day.
Just made detective. Brand new
Just
detective.
made detective.
Yep.
And he
It's
gets
his first.
called up to the big show. And Frank Salerno wants to be his partner.
Yep.
This is such a great story because this guy, Gil, has such good instincts as a cop that I think this is the guy to thank for finding Richard Ramirez because of the work he put in. And I mean, this story of Gil's is unbelievable. One of the first things that he did that maybe nobody else would have thought of was that they kept finding these shoe prints, right? They kept finding this print near the crime scene, and it was a very distinctive print. And so what does Gil do? He starts visiting shoe stores. He starts looking at the bottoms of the shoes, and he finds it. He finds this Avia shoe. And the unbelievable part to me, and this is where I get my investigative brain going, where I'm like, oh my God, the shoe thing is so great because you could literally catch this guy with this one print. So they look into this Avia shoe. They believe it's black based on what the descriptions of people have given him. They call Avia and they say, we're looking for this particular black shoe with this print. And they find out from the shoe company, well, that's easy. We only made 5. Yeah. 5 or 6. There were 6. Yeah. 5 of them went to Arizona. 1 of them went to LA. So now you're thinking, oh my gosh, if they can find out where this shoe was sold, you could nab this guy on this one print alone. Unfortunately, they could never track the shoe any further than going to LA. But that brings me to the other thing about this case that absolutely makes me crazy. As a journalist, I'm conflicted about this, but the media in LA, they find out about this shoe print. Now, nobody else knows. And it's literally the only lead they have to get this guy who is so vicious that he is sometimes attacking 2 victims in one night, like going from one murder rape to another one just a mile away.
Yep.
So out of control in a frenzy, exactly like he described, a frenzy that this guy is just terrorizing even cops, breaking into cops' homes who are on the case, like incredible. Like poor Gil's wife can't sleep. She has to leave her house, take her kids. This guy he's just just terrorizing everyone. But the media gets this, they get the shoe print and they're going to run with it. And the cops have to beg them not to. And it was interesting because the media was interviewed on this, and she's basically just saying, and I guess I kind of admire her for it. She's like, well, we told them we'll give you what you want if you give us what we want. You know, we want a story. So you got to give us something, you know, and we'll keep that to ourselves. Man, that's balls, you know, because you're talking about just ruining an investigation.
Yeah.
So and then a second thing that happened, Dianne Feinstein comes into this story, which absolutely killed me. So they're finally on this guy's tail. He attacks somebody in San Francisco, and they connected to the attack in LA. And now all the shit hits the fan. The cops are on the plane to San Francisco, and so is the media, because they hear about it and they're like, well, they end up on the same plane. And they get on, and the cops see them, and they see the cops. And they're like, well, you know, we're going to the right place. And then, and she says, she's like, hey, can you want to talk? And they're like, no, we're not going to talk to you. They get to the scene of this murder. And the media is just walking up and down the street in front of the crime scene because they won't let him in. Yeah. And they get a guy who's washing his car, and he starts talking to him. He's like, so you live here? And the guy, yeah, I live here. What happened here? And he goes, oh, well, you know, it's just like those LA crimes with all the shit all over the walls. And the media is like, what? What shit on the walls? What are you talking about? Because that had been kept from them too. Yeah. And at that point, that's when they put it all together, that it was like, okay, this is the same guy. This has been happening in LA. And now San Francisco cops are all in on it. And now LA cops are all in on it. And everybody knows. So now Dianne Feinstein, who's the mayor of LA at the time, right? The mayor of LA. She, and who is still in or senator, by the way, she's like,
oh yeah.
800
trading thing. Yeah.
She's 800 years old, and she is still at the reins of power, this woman. And this should have destroyed her career, by the way. The police were under strict orders not to share any of this information with anyone. So what does the chief in San Francisco do? He goes straight to Dianne Feinstein, tells her everything they have on the case. And what does Dianne do? She goes to the media and spills it all.
Mm-hmm.
That's who the death penalty should be reserved for. People like that. People like Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah, absolutely. Irresponsible journalism. I mean, this is bad.
So bad.
Yeah.
So bad that she never bothered to even ask the homicide team, hey, should I not talk about some of this stuff? She gave him everything. And he was watching
that's just
the
common
news.
sense. You don't talk about that stuff. I mean, that's, remember when the Hillside Stranglers were killing people, nobody knew it was two guys except for the cops. Only the cops and the perpetrators knew that it was two guys that were doing it. They had to keep that a secret. They don't want to tip off the media.
And it's too bad because I hate feeling like, I mean, the media has a job to do, obviously, but they should also be in the business of protecting the public. So anything they come forward with should be something that will help keep the public safer and not make it easier for a psycho to escape, because that's nuts. And the cops should never feel like they're working against the media. The media and the police should be able to work together on these types of things, you would think. I'm looking at the Rumble chat, and I just had seen something I wanted to mention. Man, did it fly by? Where did it go? Oh, Upon the Horizon said today he'd be out on bond or no bond release. That's true. All right.
Yeah.
So as far as we know, Richard Ramirez killed, I think, 13. He was indicted for 13 murders, charged with 13 murders. He had several other rapes in there, too. One of his first attacks was on a 6-year-old little girl who he kidnapped, raped repeatedly, and she survived. She's in the documentary. Unbelievable story she has. Just horrifying what he did to her. But what I love is how Richard Ramirez was captured. Do you know about that?
Yes. He was actually on a bus ride back to LA when all the cops were checking the buses that were leaving LA.
Yeah.
That's how he got in without anybody noticing him. He had no idea until he got to the bus station. When he sees his face everywhere, he's like, what? And immediately he goes into East LA. There's all Mexican there. He goes into East LA. And of course, everybody recognizes him from the photo. That's the guy in the newspaper. That's the picture everyone saw, on the news. And so they started chasing him down. And it was actually the citizens of East LA that took him down.
They sure did.
And they beat
the living crap out of him. It was the greatest thing. And it's on video. Like there's some footage of this happening. So one of the men in the neighborhood who recognized him grabs a lead pipe and smacks him right across the head with it, and he's bleeding, and he starts trying to run, and a guy hits him with it again on the arm. And eventually, like crowds, like a mob starts to form, and they're all screaming, it's him, we're gonna get him. And I mean, they kicked the shit out of him, and he finally sat down on the curb. And he didn't want to run anymore because they weren't going to let him go. And he heard the police sirens coming, and he said something to the guy with the lead pipe that it's a good thing the cops are coming. They're going to save me from you, which is true, because and there was only one police officer who showed up on the scene, and I'm not even sure he knew, because he was coming on a call of a domestic dispute. He thought there was a fight in the street between two guys. He said when he got there, he didn't know what was happening. He just knew there was somebody bleeding, and he took him into custody and he stuck him in the car, but he didn't know who he was. He had no idea. He kept asking him, what's your name? What's your name? And Richard Ramirez kept saying, it's me. It's me. Oh, so creepy. So freaking creepy. There's also some footage here. Let me see. Hold on, where did it go?
I saw the one where they put him in the squad car. They got the bandage around his head.
Yeah. That's the one.
They beat him pretty good. They did get one over on him. Yeah. Really good.
He was bleeding, and the guy hit him with a lead pipe. I mean, don't fuck around in East LA is the lesson there.
I think it's wonderful, because you remember a lot of his victims were Caucasian or Asian or whatever, or elderly, but it was actually his own people that took him down. I thought there was some sort of irony in that,
absolutely.
That it was his own people that took him down. They took down one of their own,
Yeah. Well,
His
and
poetic justice.
I think that there was probably a lot of anger about how he was representing their community, right? I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
sure people were not happy with the fact that this guy was, terrorizing everyone, and that everyone was afraid to sleep with the windows open even. I mean, here's some footage of Ramirez being on the day that he was arrested. It's one of the good things about these particular crimes is that there were at least TV cameras. When you go back too far and there's no camera. So here he is. He's got his head all wrapped up in a bandage because he's been beamed in the head by a mob. Oh, and the cop also said he had to move away pretty quickly because the mob started surrounding the car, like demanding to finish the job.
Yeah. Yeah. Save you a trial. Yeah.
Oh, it's me, he says. It's me.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
This guy. Look at the bandage.
Yeah.
You don't get to see this very often. Like, you do not get to see, people don't get to mete out some justice on one of these. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen it where a serial killer's been caught by a mob of people who recognize. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Have you?
No, I haven't. I have not.
Yeah, it's very rare.
That's some lynch squad justice right there, lynch mob justice,
But then some really weird stuff happened. Some really, really bad, weird stuff.
Oh, in the trial, yeah. Did someone die?
Oh, yeah.
One of the jurors
One
died?
of the jurors was murdered brutally by her boyfriend.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the crime, with Ramirez's crime, but it was, unsettling because the trial had already been delayed for several reasons. And then a juror was murdered. So the judge appoints an alternate. And then this jury convicts him, but one of the jurors loses her mind and falls in love with this man and starts a relationship with him. For real. Here, she was on Geraldo. So now this is a crazy part of the story.
The paragon of virtue. I'm sure he's your idol, right there. Geraldo Rivera.
I know. She goes on
Al Capone's vaults.
This is back in the day when these shows were so out of control, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
These shows were just no holds barred, no bar was too low for them to crawl under, here she is. Oh, wait, hold on. Am I sharing this properly? No, I'm not. Okay, here we go. Here she is. This is the juror who fell in love with Richard Ramirez. That's the wrong one. Hold on. What am I sharing here? There we go. I'm on the wrong page. Okay.
And Cindy, you care for this man.
Yes, I do. That's just one side of him.
But that's a dreadful side. Everyone?
I would say a majority of people have there's a good and there's a bad side.
And Lula Niding of Glendale, California, were murdered by Ramirez in 1985. I think they were the 10th and the 11th victims of the man. Judy Arnold, their daughter, joins us right now on the telephone. Judy, have you been listening for the last couple of minutes?
Yes, I have.
I'd like your reaction to Cindy's feelings for Ramirez.
Well, I'm confused that it's Cindy on the program, but since it is, I don't understand Cindy. I think she's just a little girl in search of attention. I mean, Ramirez is a cold-blooded murderer.
How did he? Can you briefly, to the extent that you feel you are able to?
And I'm going to skip forward because we got to go back to this crazy woman.
You saw the photos of the crime scenes. How can you have any kind of emotionally positive feelings toward a butcher?
I look beyond that. I look at what's behind that. Why?
You know what's behind it.
What? Richard Ramirez is the scariest serial killer on earth. And ladies, I understand he's got cheekbones for days. Okay, I'm not going to deny that Richard Ramirez isn't a good-looking guy because
Madonna even said he was sexy. Madonna said he was sexy.
He was physically attractive, okay? But are women, Diego, I got to ask you something. Here's the question. are women really this stupid, or is there something else going on here?
Well, at the expense of sounding like a sexist, I'm
No,
just going to
don't
tell you
worry
how I
about
think.
that here. Don't
All
worry
right.
about that.
Women are attracted to fame. Okay, they're attracted to people of high social status. Whether the most popular guy at school, doesn't matter where he looks like, the most popular guy at school, people that get respect. Okay, they're attracted to that. Okay, and at the time of the trial, he was the most famous man in the world at that time. His picture was everywhere. He was a serial killer. Everyone was following the drama on the news. He's going to get caught today. So now he's famous now, infamous. Infamous is probably the better word. Okay, and women are attracted to men that are famous, has some sort of a social status.
But
status.
They have I mean, your IQ has got to be so low to actually, and this woman built like a relationship with this guy. And Richard Ramirez was not only, he was engaged while he was in prison, and then he was married while he was in prison. All different women, by the way.
Yeah, well, so is Ted Bundy.
Yeah, well, Ted, notice that Jeffrey Dahmer did not have tons of women after him because the guy was not good looking. Yeah. I think it has to do with I think you have to have, Ted Bundy was good looking. Like that everybody could see. He was good looking. He was good with the ladies. He was smooth. Ramirez, though, on the other hand, he had horrible hygiene, bad teeth.
Bad teeth. Teeth are terrible. Yeah.
He got his teeth fixed while he was in prison, by the way, and which makes me mad. Like, did our tax dollars pay for that? But watch this woman here. I got a new one for you. The women who were after Ramirez, like nothing you've ever seen. Okay, the cops even said that this man had more sex appeal than any killer they ever saw. Like they'd seen this happen before with groupies, but watch this. This one's unbelievable.
In black, admirers of Richard Ramirez. Why were you in the courtroom today?
I just wanted to see what he looked like. I think he's cute.
This woman, who gave her name only as Paige, calls herself a Satanist. She says Ramirez has written letters to her and that she's talked with him in jail.
Everyone makes him look so bad, but I know that he's a nice person because I've met him and I know.
Convicted of 13 murders.
I know.
I think his victim's doing better than you.
He's a really nice guy.
A really nice guy.
Very out of the norm to be able to do that for a certain amount of time and length, a period of time, and get away with it. Especially the outrageousness of it, the kind of murders that he did. When I went to go visit him, I asked him, I said, how many other girls visit you? I want to know. And he kind of laughed and said, there's 2, but I already know them.
But you're the one.
And they're just like acquaintances and,
You're the one for me.
Make me think that and believe like I was like the only one that he liked that was visiting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, look at him. He looks like Kip Winger. He looks like a headbanger. He looks like a rock star.
Yeah, he looked like a rock star. It's
Eddie
true.
Van Halen, Kip Winger, Brett Michaels. He projects that,
But I mean, how that's got to really piss you off, Diego, as a nice guy, like that women are throwing themselves at a literal killer of women, like not just a killer, but a brutal rapist and murderer of women.
Literal lady killer.
Yeah. A literal lady killer. And these women are throwing themselves at him. My father, I wish I had my dad here to tell me what he thought about these women. He would go crazy on this. These are women who, are they so desperate or glutton for danger and punishment? I don't know. Oh, it scares me. It scares me that women are susceptible to this, and I wish I knew why, because this is not it's not a one-off, right? No. I have tons of videos here of women, and by the way, it's still happening, Diego. There is an entire YouTube channel of Richard Ramirez clips put to sexy music, and these women are in the comments section. You can't even believe. I didn't even want to share it because I'm like, I don't think that this should get any airtime because it's so sick.
It's very surreal. It's very surreal. I think I think of an example. For example, you've seen the movie Die Hard, right?
Yes.
The first Die Hard movie. Okay, you remember Alan Rickman's character? He was Hans Gruber. He's that evil terrorist. Okay,
Yes.
He was so incredible in that role that I watched Die Hard over and over again. Every Christmas I watch Die Hard because Alan Rickman is so good in that role. He's this evil, the way he pretends the American accents, the way he outthinks the cops, he outthinks the FBI. He's very charismatic. He's very cultured. He knows men's fashions and stuff. He makes speeches, even though he's just a bank robber, basically. That character is so engaging, even though he's evil. He's an evil psychopath, but he's so charming and engaging and smart. It's very like I'm kind of attracted to him, not sexually, but like I want to see this character. I want to see what he does next. He's a fascinating character, despite the fact that he's evil. It's just a movie. I know he's not going to hurt me in real life. It's just a movie. I know that the good guy wins at the end and that he gets what he deserves at the end. Okay. I think women look at guys like that. They see them on TV all the time. They don't see him as a real person. They see him on TV as a surreal fantasy. The way they would look at a cool bad guy in a movie, they look at him as a cool bad guy in real life. They see his character. They see what the media tells you he is. They don't see who he really is. No,
they clearly do not see who he really is. Here's another one. This one was engaged to him, and she's the mother of 2 young boys.
Mother of 2 young boys.
Who, by the way, Richard Ramirez was into kids. He's a pedophile.
Is now engaged.
Look at the eyes on this.
Married.
This one fits the crazy hot matrix with the eyes. I mean, be careful of this one. Anyone with eyes like this, there's a serious problem.
To Richard Ramirez, the notorious night stalker who terrorized Los Angeles some years ago. Handcuff key into Richard Ramirez, the one he had hid up his anal cavity.
No.
No. Okay. Did you ever kiss Richard?
No.
Never did.
He's behind the glass.
You never had a contact visit with him?
No.
Never?
No.
I heard differently. Am I wrong?
What happened was, he got in trouble with that, so he's not allowed to have contact visits.
And you're not allowed to tell me that you touched him?
No.
There's a story here. So clearly, Richard Ramirez got some kind of conjugal visit that he wasn't supposed to get with this woman. Now, who did that? Like, who did he pay? Did he pay somebody off? For one, women were sending him nudes. He would tell them, send, just color in the naughty bits with a crayon or something, and they'll let me have it. So these women were literally sending him porn. I bet he was sharing it with the guards.
Yeah.
These women, Diego, I gotta tell you, I'm like, I know you don't have daughters, too. You have a son.
No, I don't. But I raised 3 girls, though, my sisters, after my parents died.
Oh, okay.
I triplet sisters. Yeah.
Doesn't that terrify you as a man raising daughters? It's like, how do you keep girls from falling for this kind of garbage? Because it seems like these women they're a dime a dozen. They're everywhere.
It's the lonely single mom, which unfortunately is a huge percentage of the single women that are out there. The single mom. They're lonely.
God.
There's a lot of them. A lot.
See,
There's
this
no
all
shortage
goes
of those.
back. It all goes back to what I keep trying to tell people about, and like, okay, the whole thing about the way conservatives or religious people feel about sex really has nothing to do with keeping people from enjoying themselves. It really doesn't. It has nothing to do with that. And it has everything to do with this right here. When you don't keep sex in its proper place, right? When you allow it to get out of control and you use it for purposes that are not for what it's for, which is procreation, new life, when you're using it as recreation, these things happen, and these are like bad consequences. And like, you have single parenting, and then you have, vulnerable women, and you have unwanted pregnancies. So religious people and people who say, you should wait to have sex till you're married, till you're ready to have children, and you have like that family unit that can raise kids properly. That's about keeping people from hurting themselves and hurting one another. It's not about, stopping your.
Keeping society healthy and going,
Right. And it all goes
rights.
back. No, it all goes back to that, though, to this idea that, hey, you know what? Maybe sex is dangerous. Maybe there's a reason why people put fences up in all these, to say, don't do this until then, and don't do it this way, do it that way, because there's been so much human experience that shows us when it's not done in these proper ways. then we have all these other problems where you become susceptible to being romanced by a psychopath because you're lonely and you need help. And like, yes, you need help with kids. My God, kids are difficult. I can't even imagine trying to raise children on my own. I can't. And I'm no judgment, ladies. No judgment if you're doing it out there by yourself. I'm just saying there's a better
Hey, I'm a
way.
single father. I'm a single father. Okay. I have a little boy that I raised by myself, but that's because his mother passed away, you know? So, you know,
I'm so sorry.
yeah.
That's difficult. That's a difficult thing. A
Yeah.
really difficult thing.
You know, we make it work. You know, I was funny. When I was a little boy, I used to watch reruns of this show called The Courtship of Eddie's Father with Bill Bixby. I don't know if you remember that show. Okay. I never knew that was going to be my life. I never knew that was going to happen to me someday.
That's really difficult too. That's really difficult. I can't imagine it. I can't. Kids are so difficult, even with your partner, with your spouse, trying to figure out all the ins and outs. That, you know, adding that extra burden of not having it, of having to be both mom and dad. Tough, man. It's tough.
You know, there was this theory about Richard Ramirez that I just remembered now. When he was a child, I think he was on a swing or something, or a swing fell on his head and caused him brain damage as a child. I remember reading that in a book about him.
Really?
And that it was never properly diagnosed, and that he would have a lot of headaches and have a lot of like shakes and stuff when he was a little boy because of this head injury that he had. And I think maybe that combined with the bad influence of his uncle, you know, who's a rapist and a murderer, was his role model growing up. You know, combine it with that, you know, and then the opportunity that he never wanted to get a job. He never wanted to go to school. He never wanted to, you know, have his own apartment or do anything like that. He wanted to get high all the time. Okay. And he wanted to steal. Okay. And as he kept doing that, he realized, hey, you know, if I rape the women in the house while I'm at it, you know, it's so much the better, you know. Oh, what if you got a husband? I better kill the husband, you know. It was just a progression for him. He was a criminal of opportunity.
Yeah, it was getting out of control, and it went out of control. I think that frenzy he described he was building towards that frenzy, and the frenzy kept getting, you know, bigger and bigger and bigger, leading to multiple attacks in one night, and like just getting really sloppy and not caring. So there's another documentary on Netflix that Richard Ramirez makes kind of a cameo in about the Cecil Hotel. Is that the name of it? The Cecil in LA. Do you know about this?
No.
Oh, Diego, you gotta
Hotel?
Yes, that? I think it's the Cecil. Hold on, let me look it up. Okay, because so Richard Ramirez was living in these transient places, right?
Yeah.
Hotel Cecil or Cecil.
I do know about some woman was dead in there or something.
So there's
the hotel manager. Yeah.
Apparently there were multiple murders at this place. Like it was a very scary transient kind of hotel.
I did see this one. I did see it now.
And this is a very bizarre case in LA. And like a girl goes missing, and like she wasn't the type of girl that should have been in this hotel anyway. But throughout the documentary, you keep hearing about a guy who was seen wearing covered in blood in underpants roaming around this hotel. That guy was Richard Ramirez, like literally Richard Ramirez, coming back from his, you know, disgusting murder scenes covered in blood, staying at this hotel. This place was like a serial killer hotspot.
Yeah, it was a resort, a serial killer resort.
Yes, and this is a really good documentary, you guys. You got to see it. It's LA is a scary place. I'll tell you.
You know, at one time that hotel was a luxury hotel back in the 1930s.
Was it really?
It was a luxury hotel. Movie stars stayed there back in the 1930s. Yeah.
Interesting, because it's like this terrifying. Here, let's see if I can show you a picture of it. This is called Hotel. Yeah, there it is. Let me pull that up. So this is what the hotel looks like.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I guess over the years it denigrated to a point where even the staff working there was terrified to be there.
Yeah.
It just had all these problems, and with crime and drugs and just all sorts of stuff. This is a great one if you guys are looking for some LA history too, because there's a lot of LA history in this. LA appears to be a place where a lot of bad things happen. Like,
Well, I mean, it's the movie industry. It attracts a lot of people there.
yeah.
It's showbiz. It's Hollywood. It's
Did
fame.
you ever read about the Black Dahlia? Because that's another
yeah.
one.
Yeah, never caught him.
You said you were into the Ripper. Like, that one was definitely, if you ask me, a copycat Ripper case. The Black Dahlia, so brutal. I don't know if you're
that girl was turning tricks though. She was. I mean, she'd been in a couple of movies, but she was mostly tricks. She made her living by turning tricks. So I think she just got picked up the wrong client.
Well, and that's what's so sad about prostitution in general, because these are people who historically no one really cares about. And so they become very good victims for sickos, because no one's going to look for them. Or if when they find them, the cops are just like, which is a problem. And that's kind of happening again on a larger scale. That doesn't so much happen anymore with murder cases. Now, all homicides are pretty much investigated, but it is happening with the fentanyl overdoses. So there's so many fentanyl deaths, and a lot of girls are being found, dead from overdoses. And and the cops go, overdose, and they chalk it up to an overdose. It's like, well, wait a minute. Who gave it to them? Where's it coming from? And are there more? And this is something that, like, right now I've been looking into for a couple of years now, a case in Texas that I can't really get into. It's like one that I'm hoping to turn into a true crime documentary or something, if I can get somebody interested in it. But I've got one that's connected to one guy connected to at least 3 overdoses that happened in his presence, and nobody's looking into him. Nobody cares. The cops just keep on chalking up these mysterious deaths around this guy as a fentanyl overdose. It's like, well, maybe he's overdosing them. Like, can you just murder women now if you use fentanyl? Because that's how it seems. Because if you're going to murder women, just give them fentanyl overdose, because no one will look into it.
Who the Olsen twins are, right? The Olsen twins.
Yeah.
Okay, Mary-Kate Olsen. By that logic, Mary-Kate Olsen murdered Heath Ledger.
I think she did.
She gave him the drugs that he overdosed on.
I think that she should have been investigated for that.
She was having a secret affair. She's having a secret affair with him. He visited his hotel, gave him the drugs that he overdosed on. She was never charged. She was questioned, but she was never charged.
Yeah. And
because
I
she's a
think
billionaire.
that's bizarre to me. And it's especially bizarre now that, like, this fentanyl thing is like the big thing right now. It's like, this is the main drug problem in America, killing 40,000, 50,000 people a year. And yet they could have a dealer right there and know who it is, and nobody's looking into it. Like, it's very weird.
And unfortunately, it's never going to stop. Right now, this is the drug. Okay. But remember a few years ago when it was the bath salts? That was the thing that was making me eat people's faces. Remember that? And then before that, it was G. And before that, it was Molly. And before, so it's always something. Okay. Fentanyl is going to go away, and then it's going to be something else. Remember when it was crystal meth back in the 90s? Crystal meth was the thing.
You'd have to be crazy now to do any of these party drugs, because the fentanyl is in everything. Like, so unless you have like a scientific testing kit with you to see what it is you're ingesting, I wouldn't do it. Years ago, it really wasn't that way. It was like, you got what you got. But now you don't know what you're getting, and you really could die like the very first time. So be careful out there. There's so many stories of, like, I think there was just one the other day at the Navy College, right? A bunch of guys went out on the weekend. All of them died. They went out, they got an 8-ball or whatever, but it wasn't an 8-ball of cocaine. It had fentanyl in it, and they all died. Like that, one fun weekend, and you're dead. So it's scary.
It's scary.
So Ramirez, this trial was so crazy. So, and speaking of talk shows where everything was out of control, how do I get this open? Oh, shoot. Come on, open up.
Best talk show ever, Morton Downey Jr.
Morton Downey Jr., yeah. Well, we've got, let's see. How do I get this open? Come on. There we go. So this was so bad. Was it Geraldo again? No, it was Maury Povich. So Maury Povich had like a Jerry Springer-esque kind of show.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I remember when he was on A Current Affair. Remember, he used to be the host of A Current Affair.
No, I don't remember. Well, wasn't he married to Connie Chung?
Yeah, he was married to Connie Chung. He's married to Connie Chung.
Is married to Connie Chung? Yeah.
It's always like, you are not the father. That's all.
Well, Richard Ramirez actually went on the Maury Povich show.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he was on it. Here's
I think that's A Current Affair. He was the host of a show called A Current Affair before he did the Maury Povich show.
Oh, well, it was in 1991.
I think that was A Current Affair.
All right. Well,
I think most humans have in them the capacity to commit murder. It is not because.
No, we don't, Richard.
Well, maybe it is Maury Povich.
No, it's the show because the audience is
They
there.
are morally superior, as they so commonly claim, but because they are imprisoned in a web of responsibilities, commitments, beliefs, and sentiments.
Richard,
and that would render murder an absurd gamble or ridiculous self-destruction.
So Richard Ramirez believes that we would all be murderers if it weren't illegal. We would take part in murder.
Yeah.
Is there any truth in that whatsoever, do you think?
No.
I don't either.
No.
I don't think so either.
I was, I'm a veteran. You probably know that. I was in the Marine Corps, it's not in everybody. It's not in everybody to take a life. It's definitely not. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay. It's definitely not in everybody to take a life. It's not something you easily do. So, no, I think that if someone is so antisocial that he doesn't care about himself, he doesn't even care about his own life, he's not going to care about yours either.
Yeah.
There's someone who's got nothing to live for, then, it's not worth it. Nothing is worth it. Not your life, not his life. If the guy doesn't love, those are the most dangerous people are the true believers. Okay. The ones that don't believe that their own life is worth anything. The suicide bombers, the kamikaze pilots. Okay. They don't even love themselves enough. So why would they love anybody else? Why would they love you? They don't care. They already know they're going to die. So might as well take you with them, that's what I think where Richard Ramirez is. And deep down inside his soul, he doesn't really have one. But if he had one, there's nothing there. There's no sort of empathy. That's the trait of all psychopaths. They have no empathy. They don't know what it's like to feel another person's pain. Okay, they only know what it's like to feel good about causing someone else's pain.
Yeah, he was asked.
So this guy's got nothing inside of him. He doesn't care about you either.
He was asked in an interview, "Do you have feelings?" And his response was, "I don't want to talk about that."
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting response to kind of an easy question. Like, do you have emotions? Like, well, obviously, yes. He was like, I don't want to talk about that. And another thing that he did during one of those interviews was when he was asked point blank, did you kill those people? And he laughed. And he said, I have no, he covered his mouth and he laughed and he looked off and he just said, I don't have any comment about that. I can't talk about that. This is a guy who had a lot of glee about what he did, a lot of it. Like it was in his face all the time when brought up, especially in one of the interviews. The interviewer said, you're now in the ranks of Ted Bundy, of John Gacy. And like he mentioned these big serial killers and his face just lit up. It just lit up like, oh, yeah, I am. Oh, yeah. That's what he wanted. That is what he wanted.
Ego, fame. He wants to be famous.
Yeah, and it's sick. It's sick that you can become that famous and still retain that infamy. He's dead now. He died of blood cancer in prison, so he was never put to death.
Yeah.
He died of blood cancer. So now this is an interesting thing that I found, Diego. And how much more time do you have? I know you have to be out of here by.
Oh yeah, I got another hour. Yeah,
oh, cool. Okay, cool. All right. Here's something that I found in the Daily Mail about the docu-series. So it says, it was so graphic I had to turn it off. Gruesome Netflix documentary about Night Stalker serial killer Robert, they got his name wrong. Richard Ramirez horrifies viewers with gory crime scene photos of his victims' bloodied bodies. Nice work, Daily Mail. You didn't even get his name right. But actually, that's kind of funny. I bet Richard would have hated that. So they're saying here that people got very grossed out by the graphic nature of the crime scene photos. Now, I watched it, and maybe it's because I'm used to seeing crime scene photos that doesn't really bother me all that much. I mean, it bothers me. I don't like seeing violence, but I don't think you can do a true crime documentary without showing the reality of what happened. I don't particularly think it's a problem. I thought they did a really good job focusing on the victims and showing the victims' statements and their families and talking about, and they didn't spend a whole lot of time on Richard at all. It was more about the story of the police and how the police caught him, which I thought was a really good way. But to go about this, because I learned stuff that I had never known about the police work involved, which was really great. But it said some are saying that the makers went too far with including gruesome crime scene photos and CGI reenactments. And then, of course, they put all these pictures of him. I believe that this is let's see, this is probably the trailer for the video.
Who else would like to get a new metal roof installed for $0?
I don't want to hear ads. Why do they always do this? With the ad.
You gotta make the money somehow.
Oh God, it kills me. All right, here we go.
Really, you gotta play Cruel Summer.
We were proud of the
Yeah,
city.
it does sound like that.
LA was glamorous, but if you went around to the other side, LA could be a very dark place.
I was on the freeway, and here comes somebody speeding, and all of a sudden he just swerves around my car. It's like he's right there, like a moment stop. And he has this horrible big grin, and he's missing all these teeth. He just stared at me like a killer clown.
We got us a serial killer.
There was no doubt about it. This was a pretty sick individual.
The so-called Night Stalker who has terrorized California.
The same man is suspected in 6 to 8 murders and 25 to 30 attacks.
He's someone that will go into a home at night and will kill.
I woke up to a very loud noise, to which I responded, John, and immediately I knew it wasn't John, but something was there.
There was no pattern. Anyone could be a victim. He went after old people, young people, men, women.
It's unheard of.
We've never encountered anybody like that in criminal history.
Everybody was talking about it.
I'm scared. I think everybody else is scared.
Pressure was on.
You were right. It is Cruel Summer.
Man that was doing all this.
It was a remake.
Start trying to piece all this puzzle together. We were in for a roller coaster ride. It's the only time in my entire life that I slept with a gun.
There's pentagrams on walls.
It just keeps getting creepier.
And he waited until he saw the fear in her eyes, then he shot her.
What causes a person to do what he does?
I said, I won't scream. I swear upon God. And I swear upon Satan. You could sense it. There's evil in that
This
man.
picture. That picture of him is terrifying. This dude was terrifying.
Yeah.
In every sense. And I got to tell you, I don't agree with this article about people saying that it was too graphic. It is what it is. It's true crime.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the graphic nature of true crime, like don't watch it. But I don't think that it has a problem. But that reminded me, that trailer reminded me, that woman who said she woke up and she knew that someone was in her house and it wasn't her husband.
Mm-hmm.
That man was a police officer. Her husband was a police officer. She woke him up and said, I heard something. Go look. And he was like, woman, you didn't hear anything. Everything's fine. She's like, no, go. I heard something. So he gets his gun. He goes downstairs. He starts looking around. And sure enough, one of their windows is wide open. And this is a cop's house. And who knows why Richard left? Like he broke in, but he, for some reason, left the house. But they had a shoe print. They had the shoe print. And that's when homicide showed up. And the cop whose house it was like, I knew I had a problem when I saw homicide show up at my house. I knew it. I knew before they even said anything. And then he comes over and goes, well, I don't want to scare you, but this is our guy. This is our guy. He did this to your house. And it's like, oh God, the terror that this man created in LA was just unbelievable. And that I just think it was a really well done documentary. It's been one of my favorites that I've seen. The police, that reminded me too, the teeth problem that he had. So he had a lot of mouth problems, and he had dental work that needed to be done. And the cops found a car in a different district than where LA homicide was. They found a car that had been stolen, and the reported guy that stole the car matched the description of Ramirez. So the LA cops were like, we need that car. We need that processed. We need the evidence from that car. And the other district, wherever it was like, yeah, we're on it. We're on it. Well, like months go by and the car's not, still they're calling all the time. Like, where's the car? We need the stuff. They finally LA homicide gets to the car. It's been sitting out in the sun. Every piece of evidence is burned up, gone. But they find a little wallet that has business cards, and one of them is a dentist in Chinatown. So they take the card, they go to Chinatown, and they ask him, like, who did you give this to? Sure enough, the guy matches Ramirez's description, and they set it up for a sting with the dentist because he says he's coming back. He's going to have this procedure done. So they install a like an under-the-counter alarm that is supposed to trigger the fire department, who will then call the police or whatever, and they'll get there. 2 days later, after they put the alarm in, the dentist calls the homicide department and goes, "Where were you?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "He was here yesterday, and I'm hitting the button and nobody came." So the button didn't work, and they missed him. Can you imagine?
I think they got it. Wasn't it from a thumbprint on the rearview mirror?
Yeah, they got a thumbprint, one like a half a thumbprint off the mirror too. But like missing him at the dentist, like how terrifying for the dentist who has to work on the Night Stalker. And the cops are not showing up.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's kind of scary, if you look at true crime, there's a lot of instances like this where it came so close. The cops actually pulled over the Zodiac killer. They actually pulled him over after he killed a taxi car driver.
Ted
and they
Cruz?
asked him questions.
Was it Ted
And the guy
Cruz?
said, "Yeah, I did see a guy. He went that way."
Oh no.
And they went after that guy. Yes.
Oh no. Oh
You know?
no.
I mean, remember Jeffrey Dahmer? The cops went into his apartment.
Oh, that was bad. That was bad.
They went into his apartment. They noticed a smell. They didn't open the fridge. But they don't, and they let him go.
Yeah, they literally, that 14-year-old kid,
Yeah.
they literally let him walk back into his apartment with that kid who was out of his mind, drugged.
Yeah.
They could have saved his life. And that neighbor, meanwhile, is like, you can't do this. This kid, I think, is in trouble. And they just ignored it, which again, I hate to say it, but a lot of that has got to have to do with cops not wanting to get involved at the time in gay relationship. Like they're like, we don't.
A couple of queers.
We're not, which is really sad. Like, would that still happen today? I hope not. I hope not, because what the cops did that was not good policing when it came to Dahmer. It was not. It was the opposite of good policing. It was very bad policing. And watching that made me go, I was just going crazy the whole time. Like, oh,
Kenneth Bianchi, one of the Hillside Stranglers, he actually rode around with cops. You can go to a police station and go on a ride with a cop. You can do that. He did that over and over again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the Hillside Strangler. Yeah.
Weren't there were more than one Hillside Strangler, right?
Yeah, he was Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Bono.
Were they?
Those are the two.
Did they work together, or was it just? Okay.
They worked together in LA, and then Kenneth Bianchi moved back to Washington. That's where he's from. He moved back to Bellingham, Washington. He worked as a security guard, and he murdered 2 girls while he was in Bellingham, Washington.
Wow.
And that's how they linked him. They linked him to the crimes in LA, and then they figured out that his cousin was also involved in the crimes in LA, and that's how they got him.
That's very unusual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have 2 killers working together.
Yeah.
That's pretty unusual. That doesn't happen very often. Normally it's like the longer. I was just watching, so this morning I watched a new one on Netflix about the I-45 corridor in Texas. The killing fields in Texas. I don't know if you know about this one, but this is a really interesting case that wasn't solved for a very long time. And then when it was solved, they could only get the guy on 1 murder, even though he probably committed 7. And he was let out on a technicality. So like the guy is just never going to pay for his crimes, and like he was just killing women left and right. It seems like, you watch these things and it seems like in the 70s and 80s was like a really good time for serial killers because there was not a lot of cameras
No
anywhere.
DNA.
No DNA, like yeah, really tough to catch back then, and I feel like it's a lot harder now. Hopefully, I hope it's a lot harder now. Seems like it would be. And
Well,
it should.
police stations didn't communicate with each other either. Overlapping jurisdictions, they did not communicate with each other. They invented a system called VICAP in the 1970s, the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, which was a computer system that linked the crimes together. There's similar crimes that get linked together. That way they can share information. But that just started in the late 70s, which is one of the reasons why there were so many killers got away with what they were doing. Zodiac killed in San Francisco, but he also killed in Vallejo, and nobody knew about that.
Yeah.
They had no cross-reference. They had no way of communicating this to each other.
Well, also there was another thing that the officers were saying, the LA homicide was saying in the Night Stalker documentary, which was not only did they not communicate, but there was a competition between the police officers in different districts, and they would purposefully not share information because they didn't want the others to get the glory, didn't want them to get the spotlight, which is why I think they left that car sitting there and nobody did anything and nobody responded to LA homicide because they were like, fuck these guys. Like these guys are always in that Frank Salerno, he's always in the news, getting all the glory, getting all the everything. And when he said that was the first time he ever slept with a gun, it was because these idiot reporters put his face in the paper and did like a write-up on him and his children and his family, and that he was after the Night Stalker, and they put all this information, this private information out there in the newspaper, and literally the Night Stalker did read it because when they caught him and they got him in interrogation, Frank went to introduce himself and he went, "I know who you are." Yikes! This is so terrifying. It makes me so embarrassed to be a member of the media.
I call that the dark side of capitalism. It really is. When one police station when they get the glory, when they get the collar, okay, they get all the media attention, which means people get promoted, they get more of a budget. All these wonderful things happen to them at the expense of the safety. Okay, can you imagine what kind of story the LA Times would have had if the lead detective on the case got murdered by the killer?
That's so bad.
That's a made for TV movie. That's a lot of novels.
You're right. You're
I
right.
mean,
God, Shawnette. I hate to hear this, Shawnette. Shawnette says that look in the Night Stalker had in his eyes. I have seen it before, up close and personal. That is why I think the Night Stalker scares me so much. Yeah, that last picture of him is just like, I've never seen eyes that black in all my life. Like just something awful back there. Whew, I wouldn't want to
Richard Ramirez is a coward. To me, he's a coward. Okay, he targeted children, the elderly. He targeted women. Okay, he never targeted a man.
While they
never
were
targeted a man.
He would immediately execute the man. He would go.
He would shoot them in the head immediately.
Shoot them in the head. And you're right. That's what the officers who were chasing him said about him. And in fact, Frank Salerno called him a coward in the newspaper. And he actually said, "I probably shouldn't have said that because I may have made it worse, but I couldn't help myself." But he was a coward because, as you can see, the second a man challenged him, he was out the door. The one man that he shot in the head, but the bullet didn't kill him.
He didn't fight the guy. He ran away.
He ran away. And look at how he cowered in front of the mob. Also, he got hit 2 times and he sat down and gave up. So this was not a guy. In fact, there was a guy in prison with him who was his roommate, who came out and talked about how Ramirez had talked to him about his crimes. And he said he said he was a coward. He said this guy was a coward. He would sit and watch his victims for hours and wait until they were asleep before he would go in and do what he did. He never would have confronted anybody in, face to face.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's a and I think a lot of these guys may have that sort of problem where, and this is the thing. The media, though, gives him the name the Night Stalker. That's That's and that name alone, gives fear. It puts fear into
Yeah.
your heart. Why
You're
couldn't
you're a journalist. You understand. This is
I
what sells. This is what sells.
No,
You got to
well,
turn him into. You got to give him a super villain name.
yeah,
You know,
but
a
that's
Jack the Ripper, a Zodiac.
that gave him what he wanted. He wanted
Fame.
to be feared. He wanted that. They first started calling him, and this is funny. They first started calling him the walk-in killer, which is not nearly as scary. It's not nearly as scary as the Night Stalker,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The walk-in killer. And I was laughing when I heard this because I was watching old news clips. And they kept saying the walk-in killer, the walk-in killer. But as soon as they started with the Night Stalker, it changed. It just.
Well, you know why they did that, right? You know why they called him the Night Stalker? It's because of that TV show from the 70s. There was a TV show called The Night Stalker. Ed Kolchak, the Night Stalker. He was this journalist that went out there to try to catch serial killers. It's supernatural serial killers. It's a TV show.
I think
called
I
The Night
remember
Stalker. It was Gavin something. I forgot. I used to watch a few episodes.
Wait a minute. I think I've seen this. Wait a minute.
It's a
I have to
TV
look
show.
it up. Night Stalker. Are you sure it was called Night Stalker?
Yeah, Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Okay, let's see. It's
Yeah, look it up, man. Yeah, Kolchak.
Oh, all right. Oh, they
goes with that blue suit with the blue derby.
I think they remade it too.
Yeah, I think they did. They did I think they remade it like in the 2000s or something, but it didn't last.
Oh,
But-
interesting. I'm not sure if I ever did see this.
Yeah, I watched some with my uncles. I watched a lot of old stupid TV shows with my uncle when I was a little kid. Beretta, Kojak.
Kojak.
we watched all that shows.
I watched Kojak. Yeah, we
Yeah,
watched
who loved you, baby?
Terry Savalas. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that guy was awesome.
What year were you born?
I was born in 73. I'm old. Yeah.
73. So I was born in 76.
Mhm.
So yeah,
I remember disco.
Yeah.
I remember being a toddler and dancing to the radio, disco, Saturday Night Fever. Yeah.
I remember the old 70s ballads being on the radio all the time, like Linda Ronstadt and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Pat Benatar and
the Bee Gees, that was big at the time. I probably have more memories of music when I was little than anything
Andy
else.
Gibb. Yeah, of course. Yeah, my cousin loved Andy Gibb.
Music and my dad smoking. My dad was a smoker for years, and then he finally quit one day. But God, the smoking in my house, that was the thing though back then. Everybody smoked. I mean, the freaking doctors smoked. You couldn't go anywhere without smoke being somewhere. But yeah, so interesting. So I do think that the media though has a bad. They do this bad thing where they romanticize these killers, and they give them these titles, and that makes the killers, it makes future killers want to be something. They want to be the next killer clown or the next Night Stalker, and we really should be giving them names like Small Penis Man.
Yeah.
Or
well, they're trying to do that now. They're trying to do that now.
Rapist.
Yeah, they're trying that now with the mass shootings. The people that go out there and the mass shooters. They're trying not to reveal his name in the public. You got to look it up. You never know who was the killer at the Walmart. Okay, last week. And you had to look it up.
Right.
Okay? They don't want to promote his name anymore because they're trying to stop this from happening. Okay, but you remember the next person that comes in there into a school with a gun and starts killing kids. They're going to get the front page. They're going to get splashed all over the media, and that's what they want. That's good enough for them.
Yeah, that needs to stop. I agree with you. I don't like repeating the names of these shooters, especially these mass shooters. I hate it, and I think that we should stop. But I think the media should start to give serial killers, when the next one we need to give him a really embarrassing name, something something real, like that no one would ever want to be called.
The no ass killer.
The what? Don't say it again.
The no ass killer.
The flat ass killer.
The flat ass killer.
Yeah, we don't. Spirit Matter says Daily Wire doesn't name mass shooters. PJ Media, for the most part, doesn't either. We will link to articles, but we try not to.
It's because of this that they try. Yeah, absolutely.
Give
you know?
them cringy names. Yeah, I think we should try harder to give these people cringy names. Like, don't call them the Zodiac Killer. Don't romanticize these people, the Hillside Stranglers. Too scary. It's just too
Yeah.
scary. When you make them scary like that, Dahmer never had like a name, did he?
No, he didn't. He didn't. Yeah.
Nobody gave him like a. And it feels like a teeny weeny man.
Yeah.
Yes, teeny weeny man.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, he did
God.
not. Neither did Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy didn't have a nickname either.
And maybe is that because, like, okay, so Ted Bundy killed nurses, and he was on
He killed college students. He killed co-eds. That was his prime victim
It wasn't
group.
nurses? I
College
thought it was
girls.
nurses.
Those were the majority of his victims were college girls.
Who were
on
the
campus.
Who was the guy who killed the nurses then? It wasn't Bundy?
You're thinking of a guy that's what's the name? Richard Spector.
Oh, Speck.
Richard Speck.
Richard
Yeah,
Speck,
that's in Chicago. That was in Chicago.
Who grew boobs in prison, by the way.
Yeah.
We paid for Richard Speck to transition in prison.
He filmed a gay porno in prison and released it.
Jesus. I mean, look, we have a real problem in this country when serial killers like Richard Speck can do shit like that in prison. Lisa Franceschi sent a Rumble rant. It says, for the other leg for pants. Thank you. Oh, the douchebag killer. Upon the horizon says the douchebag killer. I love it. I love it, you guys. Keep them coming because we need to come up with better names for these murderers that like embarrass them instead of make them feel, cool. Because they're not cool. They're terrifying, and they should be stopped and found and mocked and ridiculed.
Yeah, but it's like our culture. We lead the world in serial killers. No country has as many serial killers as the United States.
Is that true?
Yeah, we have more serial killers than any other country in the world. Okay, when you think serial killer in the rest of the world, they think about America. Okay, we have the most.
How are we known for mass shootings and serial killers? That's not
because
okay.
we're America. Everyone's got a gun here.
But that can't be why, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, because these serial killers, most of them kill like by strangling and knifing and
Yes, but our culture, our American culture is a lot of what we do is based on violence, on sex. That's basically an American thing. I mean, of course, it exists everywhere else. Okay, but not so much as in America. I mean, we're the ones that launched the action genre. Okay, the Sylvester Stallones, the Rambos, the Terminators. Where they, you ever watched a movie? I mean, they're killing people left and right. Nobody cares. Where in real life that would shock you. Watching someone die in front of you, that would shock you in real life. But you watch a typical action movie and people are getting blown away left and right and nobody cares. We're so desensitized to it.
And that does bother me. That does bother me. But then again, though, Diego, I've seen a lot of violence in movies, and I've never had the desire to commit violence myself. In fact, I sometimes wonder if I would even fight back if attacked.
Well, Ted Bundy, when Ted Bundy was in jail, they interviewed him. They went to his cell. They needed help catching another serial killer called the Green River Killer. So they figured how best to catch a serial killer is to talk to a serial killer.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, it was. That's what Silence of the Lambs inspired. This really happened. The cops went to Ted Bundy to ask him questions. They even brought photographs of the Green River Killer's victims.
Oh no!
That was his price. I'll help you, but I want to see the photos.
Oh, that's so bad.
To ask him questions about what would this guy do? Trying to get it was Robert. Look it up. It was Robert Capel went over there to talk to Ted Bundy, try to get information to catch the Green River Killer. They caught him later on. It was Gary Ridgway, but at the time they hadn't caught him yet.
Did Bundy help at all?
Yes, he helped.
Actually help them
nothing he did is what caught the guy. He just wanted to get his jollies.
He just wanted to get his jollies off. I like Sushan Art says, Megan, everything is bigger in the U.S.
Yeah, it was professional competition. Baby. Professional competition, So they asked Ted Bundy questions, and Ted Bundy said something. He said that you know what? If I was this guy, I would probably go see a lot of slasher pictures, like a lot of Friday the 13th, Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween movies. I'd probably go see a lot. You should put cops in front of the movie theaters.
Yeah, right? I've always said that. I have always said that. I think that people who love that horror shit, there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
And I know that people who love horror, you guys argue with me all the time on that, but I'm sorry. I don't understand it at all, especially because a lot of the horror genre, the bad guy doesn't get it in the end. The bad guy wins. Like the guy
Slasher fix, yeah.
keeps killing, and
Yeah.
like I don't understand that. When the reason I like to watch a lot of these things is because I love the policing and the catching of this guy.
Yeah.
I like the justice part of it. I hate the killing, but I love that there are good guys out there that dedicate their lives and sacrifice their family life. I mean, Gil Carrera, look, his poor family. This man worked so hard to catch the Night Stalker that his family was like living on their own. They had to leave their house. They were so terrified and lived without him for the entire investigation and didn't come back until it was over. That had a toll. It took a toll on his marriage. It took a toll on his life, on his kids. But I mean, it's amazing to me, these stories of people who dedicate their lives to catching psychos like this. That's what I like about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But as far as the slasher fic goes, I think, our country leads the world in slasher flicks,
That too?
We invented it.
Serial killers.
So it's always out there.
Mass
Does
shootings.
Jason ever die?
No.
Yeah, he comes right back.
Yeah, he comes
Does Michael ever die? He comes right back. Freddy, we lead the world in those type of movies.
Yeah,
so our culture would, someone who wants to do that for real, who's immature, doesn't think like an adult, thinks like, hey, I'm going to live forever. They can't catch me. You see what I mean? Our culture kind of like allows acts. It doesn't condone it, but we show it all the time.
That's true. It's true. And I also, like Giver says, I've never watched one slasher movie. I've actually watched one, and it was Scream. And the only reason why I watched it was because it had that humorous edge to it. It was more of a parody. And I thought, it's not something I would go back and watch again, but because it was so much part of the culture was so obsessed with it that I thought I needed to see it.
I've watched so many slasher flicks. I can't help it. They're fun. They're fun. That doesn't make me a serial killer, but I do enjoy several slasher flicks.
But I do wonder though. I do wonder, like, what is it about that people are drawn to? Is it this thing? Maybe the same reason why I'm drawn to true crime. Because that's horror. It's real life horror, which some could say is even worse than watching fake horror, right?
Yeah.
I'm sitting around marinating in real horror, which could be worse. I'm not sure what it is though why people want to be entertained by murder. Although I can't say I'm any different, right? Because that's my choice of entertainment most of the time, is true crime. My sister doesn't understand it. I was trying to get her to watch one with me over Thanksgiving, and she was like, I don't want to watch that. I'm like, why? Why wouldn't you want to watch this mystery? I don't understand.
Forensic files.
I know.
Every episode, the insurance policy.
Yes. Oh God. There's a new there's one called The Girl in the Photo that if you guys have not seen, it's on Netflix right now. Have you watched that one yet, Diego?
No, I haven't.
This one is a mystery like you cannot believe. Like, I won't ruin it for you guys. If you want to watch it, you definitely should. I think maybe for next week's True Crime Tuesday, I'm going to do that one because that story is insane. But it's about this girl who goes missing, and I think they eventually find a body. They can't ID her. They ID her, and it's like somebody else. It's not her. She's just been living under an assumed name, and it opens up this huge mystery. And it turns out that she was actually kidnapped at a very young age. And the story that unfolds around this murder and the man who kidnapped her it's outrageous. It's outrageous and so sad. Here was a girl who was extremely smart. She got a scholarship even after being kidnapped. This girl got a scholarship to go to engineering school. She was like going to be a rocket scientist. She's a literal rocket scientist. And her father father, the kidnapper, I mean, just destroyed her life. She and ended up pimping her out, and like just a horrible story. But the fact that the investigators, after all the years that had gone by, and like the fact that they were able to ID her and then figure out what happened, that's a really good one. And I really think that's what gets me, is that I spend a lot of my time, Diego, following threads. You know, I have
Yeah.
a lot of cases going, and I'm following threads. And one of the most exciting things to me ever is when you put something together. You know, there's been a puzzle that has been missing some pieces, and you find one, and it's like, oh my God, this is where this goes, and this is where that goes. And I just have so much. I have so much. I just appreciate people who have the ability to do that, because these things keep me up at night. There are cases I've been working on for years and years. One I'm still working on. It's been a 4-year-long thing where there are missing pieces, and I am chasing them down every day, and I will continue to do it until I find answers. I don't care how long it takes me. And it's watching people do that and like get that answer. Oh, I can't think of anything. It's nothing better. There's nothing better.
I was when I was like 13, I first read about Jack the Ripper, and I became fascinated because they never caught him.
Who do you
and I
think?
became fascinated with him.
Do you have theories about who you think?
Oh, I'm sure I know who it was. I'm pretty sure I figured out who it was.
Who do
but
you
I had to
think
read a lot of books. I watched a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows.
Do you think it was
I even debated. Do you know the author of Patricia Cornwell? That author?
Sounds
she writes all the Kate Scarletta FBI novels. You know, she wrote a book about Jack the Ripper, and I met her at a book signing. She opened the forum to questions, and I debated her at the Harold Washington Library. Okay?
Oh, I love the Harold Washington.
I debated her. Yeah, she asked for people to speak. I grabbed the microphone, and I basically called her a fraud in front of everybody.
No.
Yeah, but because I read her book and it didn't match up with my theory, you know? She thought it was Walter Sickert. I was like, it wasn't Walter Sickert. The only thing you prove in your book is that he wrote some Jack the Ripper letters to the cops. That's all you prove. That doesn't mean he killed anybody.
Interesting. What is she?
Yeah, she told me I sounded like a lawyer. That's something a lawyer would say. Well, that was a confession.
That's a compliment. Whenever somebody tells you sound like a lawyer, that means you're too smart for them. That's what they mean by that.
That's what a lawyer would say.
I will never forget. I was in a deposition once. I was being deposed for the largest sex harassment case in Chicago, actually, against a company that I happen to work for, and I was a witness. And I was sitting in this deposition, and this lawyer kept on asking me questions, and I guess I was being hostile. I don't remember being hostile to him, but at one point he said, you know, your witness is being hostile. And my attorney said, I think she's doing just fine. And so we kept going. We go. He says to me, finally he gets stuck on something, and he looks at me and he goes, are you a lawyer? And I said, no. He goes, did you go to law school? No. That's when I knew I had him. I knew it. I was like, oh shit, I'm doing as well as a lawyer would do. This guy thinks I literally am a lawyer. Tracy, thanks for this super chat. Tracy says, not sure if this was discussed earlier. Do you believe the Idaho 4 could be the work of a serial killer? I've seen a lot to say they think so. I guess there was like two other murders years apart, similar. I don't know about the Idaho 4. Do you, Diego?
I don't know anything about them.
All right, let's look it up. Let's see. The Idaho 4. Was this something recent? Let's see.
I never heard of them. I could tell you about Son of Sam or Manson.
Apparently this is University of. Oh, this is new. This is a new murder. Okay, hold on. Looks like let's take a look at this. Because I was not aware of this. I didn't realize that this happened. Shawnette says, Megan, you would make a great lawyer. I know. I say if in another life, that's what I would have done. If I had not partied my way out of school, I'd be in law school right now, because you need a bachelor's degree to go to law school. And I don't have one because I would need a bachelor's degree. And to me, it's way too much work to go get that done. All right, let's see. This says, what do we got here? University of Idaho murders update what we know so far. The gruesome stabbing murders of 4 friends from the University of Idaho while they slept has sent.
I did hear about this. I heard about this. Yeah.
through the small town of Moscow and the rest of the country. I never even heard of this. After partying at separate locations, the victims, all under 22, were killed at their off-campus home in the dead of night in a grisly and seemingly motiveless slaying. Local police and FBI have examined thousands of pieces of evidence and hundreds of tips, but 2 weeks after the deaths, haven't announced a suspect or the murder weapon. With the killer on the loose, many students have declined to return to the university for the final weeks of the semester. And a father of one of the victims said he's frustrated by the cops' response in the puzzling case. Here's what we know about the murder so far. Kaylee Goncalves, 21. She was graduated from Lake City High School in Idaho in 2019. Oh, that's very sad. Madison Mogan, Zana Kernodal, and Ethan Chapin. How do you stab 4 people to death without one of them getting you? Like,
Well, they were probably. I'm pretty sure he held them hostage first. He tied them up.
No.
They had to watch each other die. Yeah.
Oh no! Before the murders, the friends spent their Saturday night partying. Went home around 1:45 p.m. These two, Goncalves and Mogan, went to a local bar called the Corner Club, leaving at 1:30. They stopped at a late-night food truck, chatted with others online while waiting for their food. A rideshare driver, who has been eliminated as a suspect, drove the 2 students home, and they arrived just before 2 a.m. Once home, Goncalves called her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Jack DeCour, for a booty call, probably 7 times between 2:26 and 2:52, but he didn't answer because he was asleep. They've ruled him out as a suspect. The 4 murdered students were found on the 2nd and 3rd floor of their home, but the 2 roommates living on the ground floor, Bethany Funke and Dylan Mortensen, were spared. Oh, how weird. It's unclear why the 2 roommates were not killed and if they slept through the attacks. Funke and Mortensen had also been out that night, and they were home around 1 a.m. the morning of the murder. Neither has spoken publicly about the murders, but showed off matching tattoos to commemorate their fallen friends. That's weird. It has also emerged that murdered roommate Kaylee Goncalves' dog, Murphy, was at the house when police responded midday. However, authorities have not confirmed if they believe the dog was in the house at the time of the murders. Well, where else would the dog have been?
The dog would have barked, and it would have woken everybody up.
You would think, unless the dog knew the person doing it.
Yeah.
Police have yet to locate a murder weapon, but are believed to be seeking a fixed-blade knife, possibly a K-bar-style combat knife. Moscow Building Supply General Manager Scott Jute told the Idaho Statesman that a police officer stopped by the retailer a few times in the week following the murder to ask if he had sold any knives of that type. Police say they have processed more than 1,000 tips, collected 103 pieces of evidence, conducted almost 100 interviews, and taken more than 4,000 photographs of the crime scene. The killer likely entered between 3 and 6 a.m. through a sliding door. That was always how Richard Ramirez got in, by the way. Open sliding doors. Lock your sliding doors, people. And stalked through 3 bedrooms, carrying out their knife rampage. Oh, they were in different rooms, maybe. Goncalves and Mogan were killed on the 3rd floor, while Chapin and Kernodal were killed in a bed they were sharing on the 2nd floor. None of the victims showed signs of sexual assault. No motive has been identified. Boy, that's creepy. So they were sleeping. This is very similar to the Night Stalker.
Well, but there was two people that he left alone though in the house.
Yeah.
Didn't even wake up.
No.
No, there's something fishy there.
There is something fishy there, and the immediate
either these people were in on it, or the killer knew them and didn't want them to get hurt.
Or maybe the killer didn't know they were there. Is it possible he didn't know they were there?
If I was a murderer and I was killing people in a house that I broke into, I'd want to know who. I would check every single room in case there was a witness or something. You know.
You would think, although if you're talking
the cops, something like that, you know?
Or maybe something spooked him and he ran before he finished.
Yeah.
But
that did happen to Ted Bundy.
Look,
I don't sorority killings. A girl came home. Her boyfriend dropped her off, and that made him flee.
Yeah, so something could have happened. Maybe the dog. I don't know. That's a weird one.
Yeah,
that's a weird one. We'll keep looking into that because I'll see what I can find out about that.
Well, I'm pretty sure the cops know more about it than they're letting on. So hopefully they can catch this guy, whoever this person was. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure that they do. I mean, with the amount of evidence that they have, it sounds like these days it's really hard to get away with something like this. There are
Yeah, we
cameras
got
literally everywhere. Everyone has a Ring
no,
doorbell.
no, 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 no. Nancy Pelosi doesn't have any cameras at her house.
Well, you wouldn't
She
either.
didn't have any armed security either.
You wouldn't have that either if your husband liked to, on the side when you were gone. You
drive
don't
drunk?
want any evidence of that. You don't want evidence of that. My dad has theories about that attack, which is
Yeah.
hilarious.
She doesn't make enough money on Wall Street to buy security cameras.
Apparently not. Or, the third in line to the presidency
Yeah.
doesn't also have security for her husband. Yeah, nobody
Yeah.
believes this.
No armed security.
Nobody believes this. Yes, thank you, Gail. Plays for both teams. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I think so. You tell me, Diego, what is your you're very into entertainment. You're definitely very knowledgeable about a lot of this stuff. What's your favorite genre when you're looking to be entertained? What do you go to?
Oh, I mean, I grew up watching action movies. Okay, so that's me right there. Okay, Die Hard, Rocky, the Rocky movies, the Terminator movies. I grew up with that. See, my father wasn't around when I was growing up. Okay, so I had to invent my own male role models. Richard Ramirez had his uncle. I had 3 dads. Okay, I had Bruce Willis, Sylvester Stallone, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Those are my fathers because I had no father around. Okay. And when I mean Bruce Willis, I'm talking like Moonlighting. Okay. Before he started doing the action movies, I'm talking like Moonlighting. David Addison, remember him and Sybil Shepherd?
Yeah.
Okay. I love that
That was
show.
a
I
great
lived for that show.
Me too.
Okay. I even love the Al Jarreau song,
Yep.
Some walk by night. I own every episode. But anyway, the point is that I looked for role models. I looked for role models growing up. Okay. And so anything that would have influenced me back then, I always had a soft spot in my heart for. So, of course, action movies, Rocky, that kind of thing, martial arts movies. I fell in love with Bruce Lee when I was like 17. I started watching his movies, And, of course, I was always a comic book fan, but they weren't making a lot of comic book stuff when I was growing up. We had the Christopher Reeve movies, the Batman TV show. That was before I was born.
TV show. Yeah.
I watched that, but that was before I was born.
Zing.
Yeah, but I still watch. I watch it with my son. I just watched an episode yesterday. Okay, the Catwoman, Julie Newmar. Yeah, Catwoman. But so I grew up with that.
Julie Newmar. That's a blast from the past. She's
Yeah,
the best.
Yeah, Tu Wong Fu.
Yeah.
I got to review that one too.
Did you guys know that Julie Newmar was in 7 Brides for 7
Yes,
Brothers?
I did know that. Yes,
She was the beautiful one.
She did that before.
Beautiful
She's
one,
gorgeous,
obviously.
gorgeous woman.
Just gorgeous.
Gorgeous woman.
Absolutely gorgeous woman.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the day I put together that, oh my God, that's Catwoman.
Yeah.
I was like, she was so young, she just looked a little different in that the prairie costume. It was a great movie.
That was like one of the first roles she ever got.
Yeah.
It was 7 Brides, 7 Brothers.
Good movie.
Cesar Romero was the Joker. I mean, he was the Cisco Kid back in the day. So it's like these things always influenced me, and I was always attracted to things like that. So of course, I was an adult. I was already a man when they started really making all the superhero movies. So now I'm like reliving my childhood all over again. The past 20 years, it's like, oh my God, where were you when I was, when Spider-Man came out? The 2002. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire and I are the same age. We're the same age, and they cast him as Spider-Man instead of me. That pisses me off. So like ever since then, ever since like the early 2000s, I've been reliving my childhood as a man. All the movies I wanted when I was a kid, now I'm watching them. Now they're here.
Yeah,
they weren't around back then.
Yeah,
when I really needed them, they weren't around. But now they're everywhere. Now that's the number one thing. So I'm attracted to that stuff. The superhero movies, action.
There's so many of them now. I'm getting sick of them. I'm getting sick of the superhero genre.
It's starting to Marvel Phase 4. We call it the MCU instead of the MCU because it's all about the women now. All the male superheroes have been replaced by women.
There's nothing worse to me than sitting through a movie of watching some girl who's 5'2" kick everyone's ass, like these 6'4" guys who could hit her one time and knock her out. Like, it is so dumb. So unless you're giving her superpowers, because that's the only way that makes any sense at all. But no, I'm just supposed to believe that Black Widow has no actual superpowers, but she can knock out a 6'4" man. It's
in a helmet with a helmet on. Yeah.
I'm so sick of seeing this. I'm so tired of it.
I know. It's starting to get pretty bad.
Shawnette,
those are the things that
I'm with you. I loved Wonder Woman. Oh my God, Linda Carter. I loved that show so much.
Yes, I loved her in a way you didn't. Okay. I have a gay. I'm not gonna say who, but I have a gay relative. I'll just leave it at that. There's a gay relative in my family, and he actually turned me on to Wonder Woman. He was watching it all the time when we were little kids. So of course I sat through some episodes, and I liked Wonder Woman. I thought Wonder Woman was fun. Linda Carter was incredible. Before I even liked girls, I thought she was incredible. Although my first crush was Morgan Fairchild. To me, that's the most beautiful woman in the world. Morgan Fairchild.
Mr. Fox too. That's
Morgan
hilarious.
Fairchild.
Mr. Fox loved Morgan Fairchild. She is his absolute favorite. And then
She's my number one.
Heather.
She's my number one.
He went from
still is.
He went from Morgan Fairchild to Heather Locklear.
No Heather Locklear for me.
Oh, he loves her.
No, Morgan Fairchild.
So funny. Underoos, Shawnette, I begged for those Wonder Woman underoos. I begged. I never got them. Can you believe that? I mean, I don't know why I had to beg for stuff like that when I was a kid. It's not like they were that much money. For some reason, I got everything I wanted. I didn't get the Wonder Woman underoos, though.
I got my Spider-Man underoos. I got those.
See, I didn't.
I got them.
I wanted it. I wanted that Wonder Woman underoos. So I don't know why I thought those things were magic, but I did. I also used to. Do you remember that show, Solid Gold? Do you remember?
Of course, yeah. Dionne Warwick. I met her once. Yeah, and that was the first season. Solid Gold '79, and then it turned into Solid Gold with Rex Smith and Marilyn McCoo.
I will never forget seeing George Michael on Solid Gold for the first time ever, seeing him. And the camera kept panning to his ass. And I remember thinking, why is this man turned around the entire time?
Wham. He was with Wham.
He's with Wham.
Wham back then. Yeah.
Wham
Wake me up before you go.
Yes, Wham was on Solid Gold. And yes, the Soul Train.
Well, yeah, Don Cornelius. Absolutely, yeah. The jacket.
That was
the machine.
Yep.
Dun, 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 dun. Michael with his afro. Yeah.
Oh man, it was.
Yeah, Don Cornelius. Yeah.
It was a time when.
Yeah, it was a different time back then.
So different when as a kid, like what you wanted to do was be on Soul Train one day, like just to be in the
or American Bandstand.
American Bandstand. I mean, in fact,
$25,000 pyramid. Yeah,
they even made that movie with Sarah Jessica Parker. Girls Just Want to Have Fun about one of those shows. Remember that?
Yeah, was Helen Hunt.
Yes,
and Shannon Doherty.
Helen Hunt. That was actually a fun movie because it captured a moment in time, like where those shows were super fun and exciting, and people.
Cyndi Lauper, yeah, she did that right after Footloose. She was in Footloose first.
Right, that was one of her first movies, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, Sarah Jessica Parker started off playing Annie on Broadway.
Did she really?
Annie. Yeah, on Broadway. Yeah, and then she started doing TV shows and movies. Square Pegs, remember Square Pegs?
No, I don't remember Square Pegs.
That lasted like one season. Oh yeah. Irene Cara just passed away the other day from Fame.
From Fame?
She sang Fame, yeah.
Fame.
She was saying "What a Feeling," from Flashdance.
Oh God, I loved Fame.
She just died 2 days ago. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. Let's see. Tracy says, "Was I the only one that loved Donnie and Marie and Sonny and Cher?" No.
Oh yeah, Donnie and Marie. Oh yeah.
Constantly.
They're awesome. They had a great show, man. I love it. Whenever they introduced their guests, they would be dancing while they do it. And tonight, our special guest is.
It was quite a time. It was quite a time in entertainment. You know what the best part about it was to me that's different than today is not just that the shows were, so centric on like an actual entertainment, but that you had to wait for the special things to be on. there wasn't any, you had to be in front of your TV at 7 p.m. on Friday night, because if you weren't, you were going to miss it and you will never see it again. It was like, there was just something to that, like getting a TV guide and being like, okay, I want to watch this and I want to watch that. And just
cartoons at night. Cartoons at night. The only time you could ever watch a cartoon at night, was if it was like a Bugs Bunny Easter special or something.
Or the Great Pumpkin or the Charlie Brown special.
Yes.
And you had to plan your schedule around it because you were going to miss it if you didn't. And my mom was really strict about TV. So we were not allowed to get up on Saturday and watch Saturday cartoons like that. I was not allowed to watch any of that unless my dad was sneaking it to me. He would let me watch
What's terrible.
What's the Roadrunner? That was his favorite.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show. Yeah.
The only way I could watch it is if my dad was watching it with me, because my mom would never say anything to my dad.
Terrible.
So he would sometimes get up on Saturday just to watch the Roadrunner with me. We were only allowed to watch PBS. We weren't allowed to watch anything else.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
I know, terrible. We were allowed to watch the Charlie Brown specials though, and we were allowed to watch the Muppet Show. And the Muppet Show.
I love the Muppet Show.
Oh, the Muppet Show was like. Do you remember Raquel Welch on the Muppet Show?
Of course.
I can bring home the bacon.
Yeah. Remember Crystal Light commercials?
Yeah.
I believe in Crystal Light because I believe in me. Yeah.
Her singing a duet with Miss Piggy was probably one of the greatest moments on television. Ever.
No, Sylvester Stallone singing "Bird in a Gilded Cage" on the Muppets. That was one of the best.
Wait, hold on. I have to bring this up. Muppets. I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, when Stallone hosted. Yeah.
Wait, what did he do? Which one did he do?
He sang "Bird in a Gilded Cage" on the Muppet. He sang. I just said it. He sang "Bird in a Gilded Cage." Now this is before. This is before he sang again in Rhinestone with Dolly Parton. Before that, he sang a song on the Muppets.
I do remember this. I do remember this. Hold on. Oh my gosh. Let me see. Because this is going to be a hilarious blast from the past. Hey, what a better way to close out a show about serial killers than to watch Sylvester Stallone
die laughing
and Kermit the Frog. Come on now.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest star, Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. Yes, this is it.
Oh, I remember this.
Bird in a Gilded Cage.
With fashion's throne.
Yeah, this was his audition for Rhinestone with Dolly Parton.
And there was a woman who passed along, the fairest of all the saints.
Yo.
A girl to her lover then softly cried, "There's riches at command." But she married for wealth.
Look at Rolf.
And not for love. Though she lives in a mansion grand.
Oh, this is so good.
She's only a bird in a gilded cage, a beautiful sight to see. May think she's happy and free from care. She's not though she seems to be.
He seems miserable to be there. He does not seem like he's enjoying it at all.
It's better than his rendition of Drinkenstein. Budweiser created a monster. Oh my God, yeah. See, I'm like a wealth of useless knowledge. I know all this stupid stuff, just blast from the past, crazy stuff,
That's what makes your channel so fun, though.
Yeah. I can sing you the theme to what was that show with the Lee Majors, not the Bionic, not the $6 Million Man, the other one, the Fall Guy,
Oh, the Fall Guy. I remember that one. Okay, so this
the unknown stuntman.
This was my favorite.
Okay.
This one was my absolute favorite. Miss Piggy and Raquel Welch. So fantastic.
Helen Reddy's version?
44 pairs of socks and
Oh, different.
hanging out on the line. I can start you now, 2 dozen shirts.
Piggy.
I can scoop up a great big dipper.
full of lard from the drippings can. Throw it in the skillet, go out and do my shopping, and be back before it melts in my pan. 'Cause I'm a woman. W-O and the N. Let me say it again.
I can rub and scrub this house till it's shining just like a dime.
Feed the baby, grease the car, and powder my face all at the same time.
Oh God, I love Piggy so much. And in this particular episode, she spends the entire episode just pissed off that Raquel Welch is on set because she's convinced that Kermit is gonna fall for Raquel.
Fall for her, yeah.
And it's so great. She runs around just trying to sabotage her and get wearing the same outfit and taking over her song. And it's just God, the writers of that, you know what? And I tried to get my kids into the Muppet Show, and they were so not into it.
My son wouldn't either. He couldn't get into that stuff either. He couldn't get into Sesame Street either.
No,
you know?
my kids either.
It's like, it's the other stuff. It's like the Mario video games on YouTube and the Ryan's World. That kid's like a billionaire,
I was successful in getting my kids into Mr. Rogers. So I was really happy about that because they had a replays on Amazon. So I did all of them watching that.
Yeah, my son does like Mr. Rogers. He does like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, but for some reason, I couldn't get him into Sesame Street, even the old episodes, because the new ones are crap. They're all woke now.
That's what I heard.
It's crap. But the old ones, remember when Snuffleupagus was like, only Big Bird could see him? And
they thought he was lying.
Yeah. So they had those on Amazon, and I was trying to get the kids into them, and they were like, they just don't like Muppets at all.
Yeah, it's difficult. I do that with my son. I try to get him involved in the stuff that I love, like Schoolhouse Rock. I show him the Schoolhouse Rock videos, and he's just like, "It's dumb, Dad." I don't
Oh, Shawnette says, "Who are the two old guys in the Muppets?"
I forgot their name. They were the hecklers. They were all
Stan something.
Mm-hmm.
Waldorf and Stanley.
Yeah.
Stanley?
I think so, yeah.
Hey, check it out. Shawnette says she was your, I think, was it Shawnette says she was your 400, no, Tracy was your 400th sub, Diego. We got to get
Yay.
more subs than this. I'm so annoyed that you have 400 subs. That's not possible.
This is just a labor of love for me. I do this for fun. This is my way of getting my opinions out there.
You put so much time into it, though, and your reviews are always. You know what I like about it is because you have all this information, this useless stuff you say. It comes out in these reviews, and it's like, oh, I never knew that. You have a ton of knowledge about.
Yeah, I win a lot of Trivial Pursuit games. I win a lot of those.
You have a ton of knowledge about the entertainment industry and like Hollywood and movie stars. Like I always learn something new on your channel. So you guys go over to Diego's channel and sub to him because he definitely deserves way more subs than he has. I don't even know how you've gone on this long and stayed under the radar because
I do it for fun. When it comes to chick flicks, I just want people to look at it the way a guy would look at it, because guys typically don't watch these movies, okay? And I'm a guy and I watch these movies, and I can tell you, ladies, if you're trying to figure out men by watching this, you got it wrong. I'm going to tell you what men really think about this and about in general. Nobody did that on Sex and the City, okay? I was the only guy that I knew that would give you a straight man's point of view on Sex and the City. The girls didn't know it. They didn't know what guys were thinking. They thought this was real. They thought guys really acted this way. The guys really thought this way and did. They don't. They don't. That's all I'm trying to. I'm just trying to bring some truth out there. Some knowledge. Our media sends us this message every day. And I'm trying to go against that. No, think for yourself. Make up your own mind. Okay. Don't believe everything that you're being fed. Just because you're being fed something doesn't mean you have to swallow it. Make your own opinions. Here's a counterpoint of view.
Hollywood also has a very difficult time writing men. I think writing straight.
You don't write men anymore.
Yeah,
they don't. They're not allowed to.
Your point about that is really well done. I mean, the fact that like Sex and the City never really had many men in it, and like not well written anyway, and these men were behaving in ways that just men don't behave in.
Yes.
I never thought of it until I heard your reviews, and I was like, hey, you know what? He's absolutely right. I hope to God though that people are not basing you know, what they think reality is based on what they see Hollywood writing. Because do they really? I mean, I get your point about chick flicks and how unrealistic they are, but don't we all know that? Aren't we aware when we go into it? This is not reality. You cannot be a hooker on Hollywood Boulevard and find a billionaire to marry you and take you away from it. That's never going to happen, ladies. It's just a movie.
No, I used to manage a titty bar. I used to manage a gentleman's club. Okay. And yes, there's a lot of girls that believe that'll happen to them.
Oh, that's sad.
I mean, look at Anna Nicole Smith. It happened to her, you know, although he was in a wheelchair. He was 80 years old and in a wheelchair, but he was a billionaire. You know, so you know, yeah, unfortunately, they do. There are women out there that believe this stuff. You know?
Probably the same women who fall in love with Richard Ramirez.
Yeah, because he's famous. He's the Night Stalker. They're not in love with Richard Ramirez. They're in love with the Night Stalker. They're in love with this guy that the media created. You know, it's a celebrity. It's the equivalent of dating a celebrity. You know, I mean, celebrities are attractive. It doesn't matter what they look like. Okay, the fact that they're famous, you know, that's attractive to a lot of women. You know, it is. You know, that's why the popular guy at school is the one that gets all the girls. You know, it's the popular. It's the famous people. They're the ones that get all the attention. You know, that's what women are attracted to. My problem is men are attracted to different things. Okay, but my problem is when women start writing men that way. Like, you know, it's all about a guy's look or something. And that's not realistic. No, what men look for in a woman is different than what a woman looks for in a man. You know, and the fact that I'm calling that out, I'm just stating the obvious. The fact that I'm labeled a sexist because I'm stating the obvious. That's what I have a problem with. That's what needs to change. You know, that's what needs to change. Okay, have you seen She-Hulk, that Marvel show She-Hulk?
Oh God, that
was nothing but misandry.
I refuse to watch that. I've listened to enough reviews on that I am not interested in that at all. I don't think you could pay me to watch that.
Yeah,
I've had enough anti-male everything. I've had enough.
Yeah, and I'm sick of it. I'm so sick.
I
and
love
tired
men.
Of it, you know?
I love men. I love what men bring to my life. I love what men have done for the world. I love indoor plumbing. And I love electricity, and I love getting my car fixed, and I love men, and I appreciate what men have to give, which is a lot, and we owe them a lot of thanks. And I am sick and tired of listening to women complain about men. You know, be grateful.
We don't need men.
Yeah, be grateful, ladies. Yeah, you do. The very first time you don't have electricity, good luck finding a woman who knows how to fix it, okay?
Yeah, who built that house you're living in?
Yeah.
Okay? Who fixes your car?
What
do you do when your AC goes out?
Who planned and built the city you live in?
Yeah.
Okay. Who is running? Who gets into the sewers and clean that show Dirty Jobs did more for men for I think for showing people what men really do. I mean, for what, go watch one of those videos on oil rigs of the Roughnecks. You want to see something that a woman could never do in a million years? Watch those guys throw chains. Holy shit. It's like the most amazing, scariest, but yet hot thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, it's great. And men and women need to get to a point where I was listening last night. Oh, you guys, terrible news. Ladies in the audience, I got terrible bad news for you. You all here know, I don't know, Diego, you probably don't know, but Hassan Shami is a favorite here on this channel. This is Hassan.
Shame on you.
He has huge arms. The ladies love him. He's one of the Dearborn dads. Ladies, I have bad news. Hassan Shami has torn a bicep. These biceps are an American national treasure, and we need to say our prayers that his bicep heals. That it heals. I saw him last night on Joe Neerman's show on Good Logic. He was interviewed last night by Joe. If you guys have not seen that yet, head over there after this and watch that interview with Hassan Shami, because it is fantastic. But he has an injured bicep, and I know that I can say with all the other ladies in the chat, we hope that he recovers that bicep, because he says he can only do leg day now, and that's a problem. And you know, we're all praying for his fast and speedy recovery, because you know what, America needs these biceps to be in good working order, and I think that we should all just make sure we send him thoughts and prayers. Anyway,
That's not an arm. That's not an arm. That's a leg.
I
You got
know.
right there.
When I first saw him, I was like, his arms are bigger than my thighs. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the gun show.
The gun show. Look,
Yeah, it's like that drill instructor they had on what was it? Who's that talk show that the female talk show, the girl with the glasses.
Oh, Sally Jesse?
Sally Jesse Raphael. I mean, they always had that drill instructor on there, the big guns to talk to the spoiled brats. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that guy, Sally Jesse Raphael.
Look,
Yeah.
we need to have appreciation for all things male because good men are hard to find, and good men are in your life. You need to appreciate them because when they're not all Richard Ramirez. Okay, those are very far and few and far between. And most men are protectors, are good fathers, are husbands, and we need to seriously appreciate them and say thank you to them. Now this, Diego, that I'm going to share with you guys right now. I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I just want to show you like how sick women are. I'm going to mute this because it's a song. I'll probably get copyright struck. But this person who has like an entire channel dedicated to Richard Ramirez, simply because, and with these clips of him like looking handsome and stuff, because women are bizarre. Instead of appreciating the good men in their lives, here we have women who are like lusting after this disgusting killer, and creating these things. And there are still women. If you go look on the comments, these are recent comments of women who are obsessed with this guy. Ladies, you got your priorities all wrong. Like, I get it. He looks like a rock star. Okay. But you got to remember, it's not about the looks. It's about what they do. It's about what this man does. This guy is a dangerous psychopath who will hurt you and hurt your children. Please see past it. Please see past the good looks.
No, women they're attracted to fame. They're attracted. This guy's famous. He's more famous than us. He's more famous, I mean, he's the Night Stalker. There can only be one, Any girl that gets with him is the girl of the Night Stalker. That raises her social value as well. In some circles, not mine. Okay. That's nothing I would be bragging about. But the fact is, here's a guy that actually has fame. He's famous for the wrong reasons, but he's famous. So by being his lover or his wife, you're associating with someone who's famous. If I was to date Sandra Bullock right now, I would be famous as well, but as Sandra Bullock's boy toy or something, You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that attachment to fame that people strive for.
In the Rumble chat, Upon the Horizon says he looks like a tranny. He looks super effeminate.
Yeah.
He kind of does.
Yeah.
He kind of does. He kind of has a very feminine looking face.
Yeah.
But that
He's
is
a rock star.
That's part of the thing women like, though. Women
The
like
rock stars from that era. They all had
like
look
that
at Bret Michaels.
gaunt. They like that gaunt look. That kind of like look at
Bret Michaels, Axl Rose. They all had those soft features.
Steven Tyler,
Sebastian Bach. Remember Sebastian Bach?
Yep.
Poison. They all had those soft, feminine features. Yeah. It was a thing back then.
It's true. It was a thing.
The lead singer of Warrants. Remember, I forgot his name. The lead singer of Warrants. He had they all had the soft, like feminine features.
Mm-hmm.
There were the skinny pants, the long, the hairspray hair.
Makeup.
Bon Jovi, all of them had that.
It's true. Oh yeah, Bon Jovi had that weird gaunt face too. Yeah, true. Tracy says, I think he kind of looked like Michael Jackson after his surgeries. Is it? Yeah, I mean, look, we need to start seeing these guys, the weirdos, the sickos, for what they are instead of what they look like. We need to start like embarrassing them with the shitty names, like the teeny peeny killer. I like that very much. That one was my favorite. Or the douchebag killer. Like that's what we need to work on. So Diego, thank you so much for being here for True Crime Tuesdays.
It's fun.
I hope we can do it again sometime. If you
absolutely, just invite me. Let me know.
If you
I got a wide range of topics I can talk about.
I know you do. I know it's fun, and you guys go and check out Diego's channel.
Right now, I'm in the middle of reviewing The Notebook. And I got a lot to say about that.
Which is one I've never seen. That. Never really appealed to me. I'm not a big. Isn't that like a war?
The Nicholas Sparks movie. It was based on Nicholas Sparks' book. Okay. And that oh my God, that's not even a man. That's a woman with a man's name. He does not know how to write men. He does not know how to write men. You know,
Well,
yeah,
well, I should watch your review instead of watching the movie because it didn't look like
well, you
something.
could.
Well, it didn't look like something I would like anyway, so I'm probably never going to watch the movie. But I will probably
Yeah.
enjoy your review.
A lot of women liked it. The Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams thing. But the best thing about the movie is actually James Garner and Gina Rollins. They're in the movie too. You know, so and I'm
I
also a
like
big fan
James
of
Garner.
James Garner. Yeah, Rockford Files, Maverick. You know, yeah,
Ooh,
I love James
you know
Garner.
what I just watched the other day over Thanksgiving? Like in my house, what we do is we eat till we feel like we're going to die, and then we watch movies. It's just
Yeah.
a ridiculous tradition.
Yeah.
But the movie that we should actually just go take a walk since we've eaten so much, but no, we sit and watch movies. And we watched The Fugitive again, and my
Oh, yeah.
God, is that a good movie? It is,
Yeah,
and
Harrison
it's
Ford,
another
Chicago.
Chicago movie, which I
Yeah.
forgot until we put it on, and we were like, oh my God, it's this building and the that
Yeah,
building.
that's
I've
the
been
L.
there.
That's the merchandise mart right there.
The Cook
Yeah.
County, who knew the Cook County prison, by the way, the Cook County jail was such a beautiful building. I looked it up. I'm like, that can't really be the county jail. Sure
That's City
enough.
Hall. That was City Hall.
City
Yeah,
Hall.
there is, yeah.
But is the jail, do they have a holding jail there?
I'm not sure. Luckily, I've never been in.
I think they do because I looked it up and it was like, holy crap, that really is the where they have the jail, or at least at the time, I think they did. It's a beautiful building. An
Yeah,
absolutely
they got
beautiful building.
the state lake buildings. That's where you get your driver's license. That's there. They filmed the scene in there too.
The
The subway, of course.
Thompson Center, the Thompson Center, the Federal Dirksen Building,
Yep.
that's in there. There's
Yeah, the Picasso. Yeah, it's all there.
so many, and they have captured the bleakness of Chicago in the winter in that movie
Yeah.
so well. January in Chicago, like it doesn't get worse than January in Chicago. Everyone is
January,
suicidal.
February.
January, February. The absolute worst. The gray sky. Now I live in New York now, and
Yeah.
there is no gray sky here. Like maybe a day or two, there'll be a gray sky. Chicago, if you have seasonal depression, forget about it. Do not move to Chicago because starting in like, I don't know, November, this steel gray sky appears and it doesn't leave until May. Like it is
cold.
so bad. And it's cold and miserable. And just that movie, The Fugitive with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, it does not get better than that. It just, if you're looking for an oldie but a goodie, that one's the one.
Well, don't forget, it was a TV show before it was a movie. Remember the 60s?
What?
That was a TV show, yes.
The Fugitive?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No.
It was a TV show in the 1960s.
No, shut up.
Look it up. I forgot the guy's name. It was Clark Gable's illegitimate son was of that show. Yeah, it was in the 60s.
Really?
Yes, it was a TV show.
What was it? Was it called The Fugitive?
Yeah, yes, it was called The Fugitive.
No way.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
the U.S. Marshal that's chasing him, he's in every episode. Trying to chase the doc. The doctor's chasing the one-armed man every episode.
That character of Tommy Lee Jones, the U.S.
Yeah,
Marshal,
won Academy Award.
So good.
Yeah,
So
I love Tommy Lee Jones.
He plays that so well. I laughed so hard. I mean, and it's not a comedy, but Tommy Lee Jones is just so good. Everything that comes out of his mouth makes me laugh.
Yeah.
He was also fantastic in The Client as Reverend Roy. Oh my gosh, and Susan Sarandon, another great movie.
The best thing I ever saw him do was actually the pilot of Charlie's Angels.
What? What?
It was the Charlie's Angels pilot. Yeah. Look it up. Watch the episode.
Pilot. No way.
He falls in love with Sabrina or something. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Wasn't he? And he used to be the college roommate of Al Gore.
Yeah, that's right.
Weird
In
trivia.
fact, he was Al Gore's college roommate when he filmed Love Story, where he had his cameo in Love Story with Ryan O'Neal. Yeah. Watch that one too. He's in there too.
Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee
He's been
Jones.
around.
Just
Everyone forgets
great.
that he was in Coal Miner's Daughter. He played Loretta Lynn's husband in Coal Miner's Daughter too. So that's a long time ago.
He's been around for a long time.
Very long time.
I have loved Tommy Lee Jones. I just think he's a wonderful actor. Watching him is always good. Always good.
And I never even heard of him until I saw Under Siege, the Steven Seagal movie. And then the next movie after that was
Under
The
Siege.
Fugitive.
I used to be obsessed with Steven Seagal movies.
Oh yeah. Weren't we all?
Speaking of Charlie's Angels, I don't know if you guys remember this.
Is that Valerie Harper?
That's me and Farron and Star Wars Girl, I believe. And
Okay.
somebody
I thought
did
it looked like Valerie Harper.
they did someone made a meme of us, so it was funny. Charlie's Angels. For some reason, I'm the only one not smiling though, which is weird. But I gotta run. I gotta get ready to go. My kids are coming home soon. So Diego, thank you for being here. And everybody please check out his YouTube channel, Diego Knows. And I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. It's great. It's great being on here. Thank you very much, Megan. Always good to see you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Let's see. What else do I have to tell you? So make sure you get over to the merch store if you haven't been there, because there's plenty of stuff for you to check out over there. It's in the description. The link's in the description. We've got mugs, we've got cups, we've got sweatshirts, we've got all kinds of stuff, stickers, from all the different things that we've done here. Make Americans Friends Again. We've got all kinds of stuff like the mug that I'm using today isn't happy hour any hour. And I hope that we will be back to some fun trial coverage soon. I don't know what else is coming up for the rest of the week. I still haven't figured it out yet, but I know for a fact that I will be doing a podcast. So if you are not on pjmedia.com on our VIP subscribership service, you need to be, because that's where you get my weekly podcast. And if you want to use my promo code FOX, you will get a discount. And I would appreciate it. So make sure you head over to pjmedia.com, where I have written something that maybe you haven't seen yet. Let me see. Let me check. I believe, what did I write last? Oh yeah, that's right. I wrote about Cat 10 Barge, which is finally up. Remember Cat 10 Barge that we talked about yesterday and how she went after me? You got to watch. She's an NBC reporterette, and I wrote about her on our VIP side. So I will drop the link for you guys. Clickety-click. Go over there and support me. And if you can, sign up for pjmedia.com for our VIP today, because you'll get a discount. Use FOX for a promo, and you can buy it for yourself for Christmas if you want, because you'll get access to all of my exclusive columns, and you will get my podcast every week, and all kinds of stuff like live chats and all of the exclusive content that comes from my colleagues there as well. I'm going over to the Rumble chat to make sure I put that in there for you guys. There you go. All right, there. All right. Thanks for being here today, guys. Yeah, reporterette. That was something Rush Limbaugh used to call the female journalists at the NBC, just because it pissed them off. Reporterettes. Yeah. So, all right, here's the deal. I don't know what else is coming up for the rest of the week as far as this live stream goes. If I come up with something that I want to talk about, we absolutely will do it. But you know me, I fly by the seat of my pants. So I don't always have a plan. Upon the Horizon says, Megan, when I tried to subscribe on PJ Media, I got an HTML page. That's weird. Just go on pjmedia.com and click on VIP and tell me if it changes. Carrie says, just talk about your hair. My dad would really be angry with that, because as we all know, I'm not supposed to talk about my hair. And so it's time to go. But thanks for being here, you guys. I sure appreciate you. Don't forget, send me emails if you have ideas for shows. If True Crime Tuesday is something that you like, and you have more, you've got cases that you want me to look at, the Idaho 4 might be something that we would definitely want to look into, because that sounds crazy. So yeah, for sure. Check it out. All right, guys, have a terrific rest of your day. I'm Megan Fox, and I'll see you again very
I was so lost, my world is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. I love my friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. Oh, this road has many choices. Oh, and my heart, million voices. Come next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye. goodbye. No, I don't wanna say. No, I don't wanna say goodbye. This time I know my road is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. I love my friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. Oh, this road has many choices. In my heart, million voices. Come next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye. I don't wanna say goodbye. No, I don't wanna say. No, I don't wanna say goodbye.
So thanks for that.
Thank you. Cheers.
So I take it that you've
Johnny's
seen
problem is he
Tamara
should have
Johnny's
come
bedroom
storming
before.
in there with
Yeah.
a string of
Do you
garlic
recall whether
and
you
some
went
holy
into
water.
Mr. Jetson's
cross,
bedroom
crucifix
before?
one.
May the
Do you
power of
recall, or
Christ
no, you
compel you.
No, I don't.
You realized his house was infested with
Just up for
succubuses.
that,
And
there's a picture here with you of what it, yes. Do you
Suck
recall
you
whether it was there
loaders.
when you arrived in the afternoon? I don't remember seeing it now. So while she
No wonder he said drown her before you burn her.
oh my god.
You-
Your next witness?
Now I know
Witness
why
for
you wanted to
Melanie
drown her.
Glacis, and that
Next
is
witness
also
lives in
by
Romania.
video.
Is that correct?
That begins with Miss Fast.